Close your eyes. Feel the coarse sand beneath your bare feet. It's not beach sand. It's arena sand, mixed with sawdust and the dried blood of 1,000 men who stood exactly where you're standing now. The roar hits you like a physical force. 50,000 voices screaming as one, their bloodthirsty chants echoing off marble walls that rise impossibly high around you. The Colosseum, the greatest killing machine Rome has ever built. Your name is Marcus. 3 years ago, you were a free man, a Thracian warrior defending your homeland against Roman legions. You had a wife, children, a life that meant something beyond survival. That life is gone. The leather straps of your armor dig into your shoulders. The weight of your curved sword, your sika, feels familiar in your calloused grip. You've held it so many times in training that it's become an extension of your arm, your will, your desperate hope for freedom. But today is different. Today isn't practice with wooden weapons against training posts. Today, the man across from you in the arena wants you dead. Not because he hates you. You've shared meals, swapped stories, even laughed together in the darkness of your cell, but because only one of you will walk out of this sand alive. The Emperor sits in his golden box, thumb poised to decide your fate. The crowd leans forward, hungry for the moment when steel finds flesh and hot blood spills across the arena floor. This is Rome. This is entertainment. This is your life. But how did you get here? How does a free man become property? How do you learn to kill for the amusement of strangers? How do you find courage when death is not just possible, but probable? You're about to find out. Because today, you're not just watching history, you're living it. You're not just learning about Roman gladiators. You are a Roman gladiator. Welcome to your new life. Try not to lose it in the next 24 hours. The gates are opening. The sand awaits. Your story begins now. Chapter 1. Dawn in the Ludus. The clang of iron on stone jolts you awake. Your eyes snap open to total darkness. For a split second, you forget where you are. Then reality crashes down like a warhammer to the skull. Stone walls, iron bars, the stench of 8 men crammed into a space meant for 4. You're in the ludus, the gladiator school, and you're not going home today, or tomorrow, or maybe ever. Up! All of you, up! The guard's voice echoes down the corridor, his hobnailed boots striking sparks off the stone floor. The sound of keys rattling sends a familiar chill down your spine. In here, keys mean either opportunity or death, and you never know which until it's too late. Your cellmates are already stirring. Gaius, the massive Gaul who sleeps beside you, groans as he unfolds his giant frame from the straw mattress. His back is a map of scars, some from battle, others from the trainer's whip. Next to him, young Titus whimpers in his sleep. He's been here only 2 weeks, sold into slavery after his father's debts crushed their family. He still cries for his mother. You've learned not to comfort him. Kindness is a luxury you can't afford. The cell door crashes open. Torchlight floods in, temporarily blinding you. The guard, a grizzled veteran named Brutus who lost his left eye in Germania, scans the cell with practiced efficiency. "Morning, Count," he barks. "Gaius." "Here." The Gaul's voice rumbles like distant thunder. "Titus." A squeaky "here" from the boy. "Marcus." "Here." Your voice comes out as a croak. You haven't spoken since yesterday's training session. He continues down the list. 8 names, 8 men who were something else before Rome made them gladiators. Farmers, soldiers, thieves, slaves. It doesn't matter now. In here, you're all the same. Meet for the arena. Ablutions in 10 minutes, Brutus announces. Anyone not ready gets the whip. Training starts at sunrise. The door slams shut. You're alone again with your thoughts and the smell of fear sweat. You sit up on your straw mattress, if you can call it that. It's more like a thin layer of straw over stone, infested with lice and soaked with the desperation of every man who's slept here before you. How many of them are dead now? How many bones lie bleaching in unmarked graves outside Rome's walls? The cold stone floor shocks your bare feet as you stand. Your body protests. Every muscle aches from yesterday's brutal training session. Your ribs are still tender, where Cassius, one of the veteran trainers, landed a practice blow with his wooden sword. The bruise is purple-black, spreading across your side like spilled wine. But pain is just weakness leaving the body. That's what the trainers say. And weakness gets you killed. You feel along the wall until your fingers find your few possessions. A clay cup, cracked but still holding water. A piece of bread, stale as leather, but precious as gold. And hidden beneath the straw, wrapped in an old cloth, a small wooden carving of your wife's face. You carved it during your first week here, using a sharp stone when the guards weren't looking. The features aren't perfect. The nose is too wide, the eyes too small. But it's her, Lydia, the woman you married under an oak tree in Thrace, promising her a lifetime of love and protection. You failed. When the Roman legions came, you fought like a lion. Your curved sword, a weapon passed down from your father, cut through their ranks like wheat before the scythe. But there were too many of them. Always too many. They captured you alive. A mistake, they probably think now. You trace the wooden face with your thumb, feeling tears you can't afford to shed. I will come home to you, you whisper to the darkness. I swear by all the gods, I will earn my freedom and come home. But even as you say the words, doubt gnaws at your heart like a hungry rat. 3 years. 3 years you've been here, and you've seen only 2 men win their freedom. 2 out of hundreds who've passed through these cells. The odds are not in your favor. Marcus. Gaius's voice rumbles through the darkness. Time. You wrap the carving carefully and hide it again. Some things are too precious to risk. The corridor outside your cell is chaos. 40 gladiators stumbling through their morning routine, guards shouting orders, the sound of water splashing as men wash themselves with icy water from stone basins. You join the line at the communal washing area. The water is freezing. Rome doesn't waste heated water on gladiators, but it wakes you up better than any trumpet call. You splash it on your face, washing away the grime and fear sweat of another nightmare-filled night. The nightmares are always the same. You're in the arena, but instead of your opponent, you face your wife. She pleads with you to come home, but your hands move without your permission, raising your sword. You shake your head, dispelling the vision. That way lies madness. Around you, other gladiators go through their own rituals. Some pray to their homeland gods. You hear whispered words in Gallic, Germanic, Egyptian, Greek. Others simply stare at nothing, their minds already preparing for another day of brutal training. Form up! The voice belongs to Cassius, the head trainer. He's a former gladiator himself, one of the lucky few who won his freedom through skill and savagery. Now he trains others to do the same, or die trying. You fall into line with the others, bare feet on cold stone, wearing nothing but a simple loincloth. The pre-dawn air raises goosebumps on your skin, but you've learned not to shiver. Shivering shows weakness. Weakness invites punishment. Cassius walks down the line, inspecting his human weapons. He stops in front of young Titus, whose hands are shaking. Problem, boy? No, sir. Just cold. Cassius backhands him across the face. The slap echoes off the walls. Titus staggers, but doesn't fall. Cold is a state of mind, Cassius says conversationally. Pain is a state of mind. Fear is a state of mind. Master your mind, and you might live long enough to see your next birthday. He continues down the line. When he reaches you, his eyes narrow. You stare straight ahead, showing neither defiance nor submission. After 3 years, you've learned the balance. Marcus, you've been here longer than most. Yes, sir. Still dream of freedom? It's a trap question. Answer yes, and he'll call you a dreamer. Answer no, and he'll call you a coward who's given up. I dream of victory, sir. A thin smile crosses his scarred face. Good answer. We'll see if your sword is as sharp as your tongue. He moves on. You release a breath you didn't know you were holding. The morning prayer comes next. Not to Roman gods. They don't care about gladiators. But to your own deities, the ones who knew you when you were free. You close your eyes and whisper words your father taught you, asking for strength, courage, and a clean death if today is your last day. Around you, dozens of other voices whisper in dozens of languages. Romans call the gladiator schools the melting pot of the empire. Men from every conquered land, forced to live and train and die together. But you're not melting, you're tempering, like steel in a forge. The prayer ends. Cassius raises his hand for silence. Today you train like your lives depend on it, he announces, because tomorrow some of you fight in the arena. The editor has requested 6 pairs for the afternoon games. 12 men will enter the sand. 6 will leave. Your blood turns to ice water. You haven't fought in the arena for 2 months. You'd hoped for more time, more training, more chances to prepare. Hope, you've learned, is a dangerous thing in the ludus. Pair assignments will be announced after morning training. Cassius continues. Until then, fight like gladiators. Die like Romans. The ritual phrase echoes back from 40 throats. Die like Romans. But as you march toward the training ground, where wooden swords and brutal reality wait, you whisper your own prayer. Live like a Thracian. The sun is rising over Rome, painting the sky the color of blood. Somewhere in the city, citizens are waking up in soft beds, planning their day around business deals and social visits, and choosing what to wear. You're planning around staying alive. Welcome to your first hour as a Roman gladiator. 23 more to go. Chapter 2. Blood, Sweat, and Wooden Swords. The training yard is a symphony of violence. 40 men clash with wooden weapons under the merciless Roman sun. The sound is deafening. Wood striking wood. Grunts of effort, screams of pain, and over it all, the constant barking of the doctors, the trainers who turn slaves into killers. Your wooden sword, the Rudy's, feels like it weighs as much as a millstone. It's deliberately heavier than real steel, designed to build impossible strength in your arms and shoulders. After 3 years of swinging this monster, a real gladius feels light as a feather in your grip. Again! Cassius roars at you and your sparring partner. You fight like farmers! The crowd doesn't pay to watch farmers, he shouts. The opponent you fight today is Demetrius, a Greek who used to be a physician before gambling debts made him a gladiator. He's quick, intelligent, but soft. The arena will eat him alive if he doesn't harden fast. You circle each other on the sand-covered ground. Every step kicks up dust that coats your skin and fills your lungs. The sun beats down mercilessly. It's not even mid-morning, and already you're dripping sweat. Demetrius lunges forward with a clumsy thrust. You sidestep easily and bring your rudies down across his ribs. Not hard enough to break bones. You're not trying to kill him, but hard enough that he'll feel it for days. He doubles over, gasping. You could finish him now with a strike to the back of his neck, but instead you step back, lowering your weapon. Get up, you tell him quietly. If you stay down in the arena, you die. Demetrius struggles to his feet, his face twisted with pain and humiliation. Around you, other pairs continue their brutal dance. The Gaul, Gaius, is demolishing a new recruit with methodical efficiency. Young Titus is barely holding his own against a scarred Dacian twice his age. Mercy? Cassius appears beside you like a vulture sensing carrion. Did I see you show mercy, Marcus? Your blood turns cold. Showing mercy in training is considered a sign of weakness, and weakness gets you assigned to the afternoon executions instead of the real gladiator fights. The executions are just slaughter. No skill, no honor, just feeding criminals to beasts for the crowd's amusement. No, sir. I was demonstrating proper technique. Were you? His scarred face splits into a predatory grin. Then demonstrate it again. This time, don't stop until he can't get up. It's a test. Everything here is a test. Demetrius raises his weapon with shaking hands. His physician's training tells him exactly how badly he's hurt. You can see the knowledge in his eyes. But he's here. He's standing. He's ready to continue. You respect him for that. The second round is faster, more vicious. Demetrius has learned from the first exchange. He's studying your movements, looking for patterns. It's what a good physician does. Diagnose the problem, find the solution. Unfortunately for him, you're not a problem that can be solved with medical knowledge. You feint left, then pivot right, bringing your rudies up in a crushing uppercut that catches him under the chin. His head snaps back, and he crumples to the sand like a discarded tunic. This time, he doesn't get up. Cassius nods approvingly. Better, but still too slow. In the arena, hesitation is death. You know he's right. In your 3 years here, you've developed a reputation for being skilled but cautious. It's kept you alive, but it hasn't earned you the spectacular victories that lead to freedom. The crowd loves blood and boldness. They want to see a warrior who fights like he's immortal, not one who calculates every move. But calculation has kept you breathing, and breathing men can still win freedom. Water break, one of the trainers calls out. You trudge over to the stone troughs filled with brackish water. It tastes like metal and disappointment, but it keeps you from collapsing in the heat. Around you, other gladiators gulp down the precious liquid, their bodies steaming in the morning sun. Gaius appears beside you, his massive frame casting a welcome shadow. The Gaul is a mountain of muscle and scars, with hands like anvils and a surprisingly gentle soul. He's been here 5 years, longer than almost anyone except the trainers themselves. You held back, he says quietly, splashing water over his shaved head. He's not ready for full contact. The editor doesn't care if he's ready. If he's selected for tomorrow's games, ready or not, he dies. You both know it's true. The editor, the man who organizes the Gladiator games, cares only about entertainment. A quick death can be just as thrilling as a long fight, especially if it's dramatic enough. You could have killed him just now. Gaius continues. Cassius wanted you to. Then why didn't I? The Gaul studies you with intelligent eyes. Despite his barbarian appearance, he's one of the smartest men you've ever met. Before the Romans enslaved him, he was a chieftain's son, trained in warfare and diplomacy. Because you still remember being human, he says finally. Most of us forget after the first year. It makes things easier. And you? Do you remember? A shadow crosses his face. I try not to. My wife, my children, they're better off thinking I'm dead. If I win my freedom tomorrow and go home, what do I tell them? That I spent 5 years killing men for Rome's entertainment. That I became exactly what our ancestors fought against. Before you can answer, the horn sounds. Break time is over. The next hour is pure brutality. Individual combat gives way to group exercises designed to push you beyond your limits. You practice formations, learning to fight as part of a unit. You work with different weapons, the trident and net of the retiarius, the heavy shield and gladius of the myrmilio, the twin swords of the Dimicaris. Each weapon has its own rhythm, its own philosophy. The retiarius fights like a fisherman, patient and precise, waiting for the perfect moment to cast his net. The myrmilio is a fortress, using his tower shield to create an impenetrable defense before striking with devastating force. The Dimicaris is a whirlwind, relying on speed and aggression to overwhelm his opponent. But you are a Thraex, a Thracian fighter. Your curved Sika is designed for getting around shields and armor, finding the gaps in an enemy's defense. You fight smart, not hard. You use your opponent's strength against him. At least, that's the theory. Weapons training, Cassius bellows. Marcus, Gaius, you're up. Sika versus Gladius. Fight until first blood. This is serious now. First blood means real weapons. Sharp steel that can kill or maim with a single mistake. Around you, the other gladiators stop their own training to watch. Combat between veterans is always instructive, and often fatal. You strap on your practice armor, leather strips reinforced with bronze plates. It's not the elaborate gear you'll wear in the arena, but it'll stop a glancing blow from taking your head off. The helmet is the worst part. It limits your vision to a narrow slit, forcing you to rely on sound and instinct. Gaius dons the gear of a myrmilio, a massive rectangular shield that covers him from shoulder to knee, and a helmet with a distinctive fish crest. His gladius is short, but devastatingly effective in close combat. You face each other in the center of the training yard. The familiar weight of your Sika feels comforting in your hand. This is what you were born for, not the slavery, but the combat. Every Thracian warrior learns to fight before he learns to walk. Cassius raises his hand. Begin. Gaius comes at you like a landslide, slow but irresistible. His shield is a wall of wood and bronze, his gladius just visible behind its rim. He's fought this way for 5 years, turning defense into offense, wearing down opponents until they make a mistake. You circle him like a wolf, looking for openings. The curved blade of your Sika gleams in the sunlight as you probe his defenses. High, low, left, right, every strike meets that damned shield. The crowd of watching gladiators begins to murmur. Some are betting on the outcome. Others are studying your techniques, learning from your movements. Knowledge is survival in this place. Gaius suddenly explodes forward, shield first. It's a classic myrmilio tactic. Use the shield as a weapon, knock your opponent off balance, then finish him with the gladius. But you've fought Gaius dozens of times. You know his moves almost as well as he does. You drop low and to the left, rolling under his shield thrust. Your Sika flicks out as you pass, its curved edge finding the gap between his arm guard and his side armor. First blood. A thin line of red appears on his ribs. The watching gladiators cheer. You've won, not through strength or aggression, but through patience and skill. Gaius grins as he pulls off his helmet. Well fought, brother. That's why Thracians make the best gladiators. You think before you strike. And that's why Gauls make the best friends, you reply, helping him examine the cut. You taught me that move. Did I? My memory isn't what it used to be. Too many blows to the head. But you both know it's not true. Gaius has the mind of a strategist, even now. He let you win because he wanted the others to see proper technique in action. In the ludus, the veterans teach the newcomers, not out of kindness, but out of necessity. Dead gladiators don't put on good shows. The training session continues for another hour. Your body is a map of bruises and minor cuts by the time Cassius finally calls a halt. Every muscle aches. Every joint protests. Your hands are raw from gripping weapons, your feet bloody from dancing on the abrasive sand. But you're alive. You're Sam, but you're alive. You're stronger. And tomorrow, when you face a real opponent in the arena, these bruises might be the difference between victory and death. As you trudge back toward the barracks, young Titus falls into step beside you. His face is swollen from a particularly vicious training bout, but his eyes are bright with something that might be hope. "Marcus," he says quietly, "will you teach me the move you used on Gaius? The low roll?" You study the boy. He's soft, inexperienced, probably doomed. But he's trying to learn, trying to survive. That counts for something. After the midday meal, you tell him. But first, you need to build your strength. Start carrying rocks. Small ones at first, then bigger. Your arms need to be like iron before you can wield iron. He nods eagerly and runs ahead to join the other recruits. Gaius chuckles as he watches the boy go. "Another student, Marcus? You're going to turn this place into a school." "Maybe that's what it should be," you reply. "A school where men learn to live, not just how to die." "Careful, brother. That kind of thinking will get you crucified." He's right, of course. Romans don't want gladiators who think too much about life and freedom. They want killers who put on spectacular shows before dying gloriously in the sand. But as you walk back to the barracks, your body aching and your spirit strangely lifted, you can't help thinking that maybe, just maybe, there's another way. The training is over. Your body has been tested and tempered like steel in a forge. Now comes the hardest part of any gladiator's day. The waiting. Waiting to learn if tomorrow brings freedom or death or something in between. The sun climbs higher over Rome, and your day as a gladiator continues. Chapter 3. The Gladiator's Table. The horn sounds for the midday meal, and 40 starving men become animals. You've learned to move fast when the food comes. Hesitate for even a moment, and you'll go hungry. In the ludus, hunger is just another enemy, one that can kill you just as surely as a sword in the arena. The dining hall is a long, low room carved from the same gray stone as your cell. Wooden tables stretch from wall to wall, scarred by years of use and abuse. The air is thick with the smell of unwashed bodies, stale bread, and something that might generously be called stew. You claim your spot at the table with practiced efficiency, elbowing aside a newer recruit who tried to take your usual place. Hierarchy matters here. Veterans eat first. Veterans get the best portions. Veterans survive. The cook, a one-armed former gladiator named Rufus, ladles your portion into a clay bowl that's been chipped so many times it's more cracked than ceramic. The bowl is warm in your hands, a small comfort in this stone-cold world. You stare down at your meal and try not to think about what you're eating. Barley porridge, the foundation of every gladiator's diet, thick as mortar and about as appetizing. The Romans call you barley men as an insult. Grain eaters, peasant food for peasant fighters. But you've learned to love this gray, lumpy mess. It's protein and carbohydrates, and the fuel that keeps you alive for another day. Floating in the porridge are chunks of something that might be meat. Might be. Rufus has never been clear about exactly what animal it comes from, and you've learned not to ask. Ignorance, in this case, truly is bliss. On the side, a handful of beans, black, hard, and bitter. They taste like dirt, but they'll keep scurvy away and give your muscles the strength they need. Next to them, a piece of bread so stale it could be used as a weapon. You've seen men break teeth on bread like this. And finally, your drink. Pasca. Vinegar water, the lowest form of refreshment in the Roman world. It's what soldiers drink when they can't get wine, what slaves drink because they can't afford anything else. It burns your throat going down and leaves your mouth tasting like you've been sucking on copper coins. But it's yours. Every drop, every grain, every questionable chunk of meat. In a world where you own nothing, not your body, not your future, not even your name, this meal is the only thing that truly belongs to you. Eat up, Marcus. Gaius settles his massive frame beside you, his own bowl steaming in his hands. You'll need your strength for this afternoon's training. You grunt in acknowledgement, too focused on eating to waste energy on conversation. Around you, the dining hall fills with the sounds of 40 men attacking their food like it might escape. Slurping, chewing, the occasional curse when someone bites down on a particularly tough piece of whatever that meat is. At the far end of your table, young Titus stares at his bowl with obvious revulsion. His face is still swollen from this morning's beating, making it hard for him to chew. He pushes the barley around with his wooden spoon like he's trying to find something recognizable. Problem boy? The voice belongs to Quintus, a weasel-faced man from Gaul who's made survival into an art form. He's been here 4 years and has never won a significant fight, but somehow he's still alive. The secret, you suspect, is information. Quintus knows things. Who's fighting whom? Which gladiators are favored by the lanista? Which guards can be bribed? Knowledge is power, even in slavery. It's just... Titus swallows hard. What kind of meat is this? Several men around the table chuckle darkly. Quintus grins, showing teeth stained brown from years of pasca. Fresh meat, boy. Very fresh. Killed this morning, in fact. Titus goes pale. You mean... Demetrius, someone else says. The Greek physician. Didn't make it through training. Internal bleeding. You remember the man you sparred with this morning? Intelligent, soft, doomed from the moment he set foot in the ludus. The blow you landed under his ribs must have done more damage than anyone realized. Titus pushes his bowl away, looking sick. Around the table, other men continue eating without pause. You've all been here long enough to know the truth. In the ludus, nothing goes to waste. Not food, not weapons, not lives. Don't be squeamish, Quintus continues, spooning another mouthful of stew. Demetrius was a good man. Strong, healthy. His meat will make you stronger. That's enough. Your voice cuts through the conversation like a blade. The table falls silent, all eyes turning to you. Quintus raises an eyebrow. Problem, Marcus? The boy doesn't need to know everything on his first week. The boy needs to know what kind of world he's living in now. Quintus shoots back. Sooner he learns, sooner he stops being a liability to the rest of us. There's truth in what he says, but you remember your own first days here. The horror, the disbelief, the crushing realization that everything you'd believed about Roman civilization was a lie. Some lessons come hard enough without adding cruelty to them. He'll learn when he's ready, you say quietly. Let him eat. For a moment, tension crackles across the table like lightning before a storm. Quintus is dangerous precisely because he's weak. Weak men do desperate things to survive, and desperate men can't be trusted. But he's also smart enough to know that challenging you directly would be a mistake. You have a reputation in the ludus, not just for fighting skill, but for something more dangerous: leadership. Men listen to you. Men follow you. And that makes you a threat to the established order. Quintus shrugs and returns to his meal. Suit yourself. But waste food and Cassius will have you on half rations for a week. He's right about that too. Food is currency in the ludus, more valuable than coin. Extra portions go to the victors, the favorites, the men who put on spectacular shows. Reduced rations go to the cowards, the troublemakers, the ones marked for death. You slide your own portion of bread across the table to Titus. The boy looks up in surprise. Eat, you tell him. All of it. You'll need the strength. But Marcus, that's your... Eat. He takes the bread with trembling hands, tears streaming down his swollen face. Around the table, other gladiators watch this small act of kindness with expressions ranging from approval to contempt. In their world, generosity is either nobility or stupidity, depending on who's watching. Gaius nudges you with his elbow. Soft heart will get you killed in here. He murmurs, maybe. But a hard heart will kill me somewhere else. You mean your soul, but Gaius understands. He nods and returns to his meal. The conversation around the table turns to other matters. Tomorrow's games mostly. Who's been selected? What the pairings might be? Whether the emperor will attend. Information flows like wine at a Roman feast. Some of it true, most of it speculation, all of it precious. 6 pairs, someone says. That's what I heard from one of the guards. 8, another corrects. My cellmate knows a guy who works in the editor's office. Could be 10, could be 2. We won't know until tonight. You listen with half an ear while finishing your meal. The barley porridge tastes like survival, bitter, necessary, life-giving. The beans crunch between your teeth like tiny stones. The pasca burns away the taste of everything else, leaving only the metallic tang of vinegar and desperation. Across from you, an Egyptian named Katie speaks quietly with 2 other men about something that sounds like escape plans. You don't listen too closely. Escape attempts happen once or twice a year, and they always end the same way. Crucifixion for the leaders, savage beatings for the followers, increased security for everyone else. But you can't blame them for trying. Hope is a disease in the ludus, painful, persistent, ultimately fatal. But without it, you might as well open your veins now and save the crowd the trouble. Marcus. Titus's voice is barely above a whisper. Thank you. For the bread, I mean, and for stopping them. You study the boy's face. Underneath the bruises and the fear, you see something that reminds you of your younger brother back in Thrace. The same earnest eyes, the same desperate need to believe that the world has some goodness left in it. Your brother would be about Titus's age now, if he's still alive, if the Romans haven't enslaved or killed him too. Don't thank me yet, you tell him. Save it for when you're still breathing tomorrow night. Do you think I'll be selected? For the games? It's the question every gladiator asks and every veteran dreads answering. Tell him the truth, that new recruits are often thrown into the arena as warm-up acts, expendable entertainment before the main events, and you crush his spirit. Lie to him, and you give him false hope that could get him killed. You choose a middle path. Focus on your training. Learn everything you can, and remember, the crowd loves courage more than skill. Fight like a lion, even if you have the skills of a lamb, and you might survive long enough to become dangerous. It's not much comfort, but it's honest. In the ludus, honesty is about the only gift you can give that costs nothing and might actually help. The meal is winding down. Around the dining hall, men scrape the last remnants of food from their bowls, savoring every grain of barley, every drop of vinegar water. Some will try to save a piece of bread for later, hiding it in their clothing until the evening meal. Others will eat everything now, knowing that tomorrow they might not get another chance. You drain the last of your pascha and stand. Your body protests. The morning's training has left you stiff and sore, but movement is necessary. Sit still too long, and your muscles will seize up like rusted iron. "Where are you going?" Gaius asks. "To keep my promise." The boy wants to learn that rolling technique. The Gaul nods approvingly. Good. Teaching keeps the mind sharp, and sharp minds live longer than dull ones. As you walk away from the table, you hear Quintus speaking quietly to someone about betting odds and arena politics. Behind you, the dining hall continues its low hum of conversation, conspiracy, and camaraderie. You've eaten your meal. You've consumed the fuel that will power your body through whatever trials the afternoon brings. But more importantly, you've participated in the strange ritual that binds 40 condemned men together. The sharing of food, the exchange of information, the small acts of kindness that prove you're all still human. In a few hours, some of these men might be selected for tomorrow's games. Some will die. Some will live to eat another meal in this gray stone room. But for now, for this moment, you're all brothers. Brothers in bondage, brothers in blood, brothers in the terrible fellowship of those who have nothing left to lose except their lives. The afternoon sun streams through the high windows, casting long shadows across the dining hall floor. Somewhere in Rome, citizens are enjoying elaborate feasts with wine and exotic delicacies, reclining on soft couches while slaves serve them course after course of luxury. You've had barley porridge and vinegar water, and you're grateful for every bite. Such is the life of a gladiator. Such is your life, for as long as it lasts. Chapter 4. Life Behind Bars. The afternoon heat transforms the ludus into a cauldron of stone and desperation. You're in the central courtyard now, the beating heart of gladiator life. High walls surround this rectangular space on all sides, topped with iron spikes that glint like teeth in the merciless sun. There's no escape from here, not through those walls, not through the heavily guarded gates, and certainly not through the maze of cells and training areas that honeycomb the compound. But escape isn't what you're thinking about right now. Survival is. The courtyard buzzes with the strange energy that fills any place where desperate men gather. In one corner, a group of Germanic warriors huddle together, their blonde hair and pale skin marking them as recent arrivals from the northern campaigns. They still carry themselves like free men, shoulders back, eyes defiant, hands unconsciously reaching for weapons that are no longer there. Give them a month, and that pride will either break completely or forge itself into something harder and more dangerous. Near the stone well that provides the ludus with water, Egyptian gladiators trade stories in their musical language. You catch fragments, talk of the Nile, of gods with animal heads, of techniques for fighting in desert sand that burns the feet and blinds the eyes. And everywhere, the underground economy of the ludus plays out in whispered conversations and careful exchanges. Information is the most valuable currency here. Who's injured and trying to hide it? Which guards can be bribed? What are the betting odds for tomorrow's games? Knowledge can mean the difference between a favorable pairing and a death sentence. Marcus. Young Titus appears at your elbow like an eager puppy, practically vibrating with nervous energy. You promised to teach me that rolling move, the one you used against Gaius this morning? You study the boy's face, still swollen from this morning's beating, but bright with desperate hope. Teaching combat techniques in the ludus is always dangerous. Make another gladiator stronger, and he might use that strength against you someday. But refusing to help condemns him to almost certain death. And something about Titus reminds you of your younger brother back in Thrace. The same earnest eyes, the same stubborn refusal to give up even when the odds are impossible. Follow me, you tell him, leading him to a quieter section of the courtyard where the afternoon shadows provide some relief from the brutal sun. First, show me your stance. He assumes what he thinks is a fighting position. Feet too close together, weight on his heels, imaginary sword held like it might burn his hands. It's worse than you'd hoped, but not unexpected for someone who spent his life shaping clay instead of learning warfare. You're standing like you're in your father's pottery shop, you tell him, keeping your voice patient despite the urgency gnawing at your gut. In the arena, balance is life. Feet shoulder width apart, weight on the balls of your feet. The sword becomes part of your arm. You demonstrate the proper stance, and he mimics you with painful concentration. Better, but still awkward. His body doesn't know how to move like a warrior yet. Tell me about your life before, you say while adjusting his posture. What did you do? I was learning my father's trade. Pottery. His voice carries the weight of a life that will never return. 18 years learning to shape clay, to fire kilns, to make vessels that would hold wine and grain, and he trails off, and you see the exact moment he realizes that those gentle hands will never create anything beautiful again. From now on, they'll only hold weapons. Pottery requires precision, you tell him firmly. Patience. Attention to detail. Those are gladiator skills too. It's not entirely true, but hope can be more valuable than honesty when dispensed in careful doses. For the next hour, you work with him on basic movements. How to pivot without losing your balance. How to roll low and come up with your weapon ready. How to read an opponent's body language before they commit to an attack. It's exhausting work, not physically, but emotionally. Teaching someone to kill is harder than killing them yourself. Why are you helping me? Titus asks during a brief water break, sweat streaming down his bruised face. The question catches you off guard. In the ludus, every kindness is also a potential weakness. Every friend might become an enemy. Every student could become your killer. But as you look at this boy, because despite his 18 years, that's what he is, you remember something important about why you're still fighting to remain human in this inhuman place. Because someone helped me once, you admit. When I first arrived, there was a Dacian named Decebalus. Looked like he could wrestle bears for sport. I was terrified, certain I'd die in my first week. Titus listens with the intensity of someone memorizing scripture. Decebalus took me aside and taught me to survive. Not just fighting techniques, but how to read the politics of this place. How to avoid making enemies unnecessarily. How to stay alive when everything around you wants you dead. What happened to him? The inevitable question. The one that always comes when you mention the ghosts of the ludus. He won his freedom, you say carefully. Fought for 5 years, earned enough victories to buy his wooden sword of liberation. What you don't mention is that Decebalus died 6 months later, not in glorious combat, but knifed in an alley by a Roman citizen who didn't think a former gladiator deserved to look him in the eye. Some freedoms are shorter than others, but Titus doesn't need that knowledge. Not yet. Your teaching session is interrupted by a commotion near the main gate. Voices rise above the usual murmur of the courtyard. and you see gladiators converging toward the disturbance like iron filings drawn to a lodestone. "What's happening?" Titus asks, craning his neck to see over the gathering crowd. Your stomach clenches with sudden dread. There's only one thing that draws this kind of attention in the ludus. "Tomorrow's fight pairings," you say quietly. "They've been announced." The crowd parts automatically as you approach. Even here, hierarchy matters, and veterans command respect. At the center of the gathering, you find a nervous-looking Greek clerk named Apollodorus, one of the Lanista's administrative staff. He holds a wax tablet in his trembling hands, like it contains the names of gods instead of condemned men. Gaius catches your eye from across the circle and gives you an almost imperceptible nod. His face shows the same careful neutrality that all experienced gladiators master, revealing nothing, preparing for anything. Apollodorus clears his throat with bureaucratic precision. When he speaks, his voice carries the detached efficiency of a man who deals in human lives like a merchant counts coins. "By order of the editor, tomorrow's games will feature 6 matched pairs," he announces. First pairing, Castor the Gaul versus Brutus the Thracian. You know both men. Castor is aging but crafty, with 17 victories to his name. Brutus is younger, hungrier, probably favored by the betting crowds. It should be an entertaining fight, which means one of them will almost certainly die. Second pairing, Felix the Egyptian versus Taurus the German. Felix you recognize from the dining hall, Keti's cellmate, a quiet man who keeps to himself but moves with deadly precision during training. Taurus is a brute force fighter, all muscle and rage, the kind the crowd loves to watch until someone smarter cuts him down. Third pairing, Quintus the Gaul versus Maximus the Dacian. A murmur ripples through the assembled gladiators. Quintus, the weasel-faced information broker from your table, paired against Maximus, one of the most feared killers in the ludus. It's either the editor's idea of entertainment or punishment for Quintus running out of useful secrets to trade. Fourth pairing. Your heart hammers against your ribs like a caged bird. Each name called is another roll of the dice, another spin of fortune's wheel that might land on your number. Please, you pray to whatever gods might be listening. Not Gaius. Anyone but Gaius. Gaius the Gaul versus Marcus the Thracian. The words hit you like a physical blow. The courtyard spins around you, and for a moment, you think you might collapse right there in the sand. Gaius, your friend, your brother, the man who shared 3 years of captivity with you, who's watched your back in training, who knows your fears and hopes better than anyone alive. Tomorrow, one of you will kill the other. The crowd around you seems to sense the significance of this pairing. Men step back slightly, creating a circle of space around you and Gaius. Some faces show sympathy. They understand the cruel mathematics of gladiator life, where friendship is always temporary and death is the only lasting relationship. Others show excitement, veteran versus veteran, skill against skill, experience against experience. It's exactly the kind of match that makes crowds roar and betting odds fluctuate wildly. Across the circle, Gaius meets your eyes. His massive frame seems somehow diminished, though he hasn't moved or changed position. For just an instant, you see past his stoic mask to the pain beneath. Then his face hardens back into its familiar neutral expression. He gives you a slight nod, acknowledgement, respect, and something that might be an apology all rolled into one small gesture. Fifth pairing, Darius the Syrian versus Lucius the Spaniard. Apollodorus continues reading, but his words fade into background noise. Your entire world has collapsed down to the space between you and your best friend, and the terrible knowledge of what tomorrow will demand. Sixth pairing, Titus the Roman versus Achilles the Greek. This second announcement hits you like another hammer blow. Titus, barely trained, soft from his civilian life, still learning to hold a sword properly despite your afternoon of instruction. Paired against Achilles, a veteran Greek fighter with 23 confirmed kills and a reputation for cruelty that makes hardened criminals flinch. It's not a fight, it's an execution disguised as entertainment. Beside you, Titus goes white as bleached bone. His hands shake as the reality sinks in. Tomorrow, he dies. Not maybe, not if he's unlucky. Tomorrow, Achilles will cut him apart for the amusement of 50,000 screaming Romans. Apollodorus finishes reading and rolls up his tablet. Evening training begins in 1 hour, he announces with bureaucratic indifference. Prepare yourselves. Tomorrow, Rome watches. He strides away, leaving behind a courtyard full of condemned men trying to process their fates. The crowd begins to disperse slowly. Some gladiators seek out their opponents, sizing them up one final time. Others retreat to quiet corners to pray, to think, to prepare their souls for what's coming. Gaius approaches you with measured steps, each footfall deliberate and careful. When he stops in front of you, you can see the weight of 3 years of friendship in his eyes. Well, he says finally, his voice carefully light. This complicates things. Despite everything, the fear, the shock, the crushing knowledge of tomorrow's necessity, you almost smile. Trust Gaius to find dark humor in the darkest moments. 3 years, you manage to say. 3 years we've been brothers. And now we find out what brotherhood really means. He places one massive hand on your shoulder. Marcus, whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know. You've been the truest friend a man could ask for in this hellish place. Don't, you tell him sharply. Don't talk like we're already dead. Aren't we? He gestures around the courtyard where other condemned men are having similar conversations. Look around, brother. We're all corpses, have been since we walked through those gates. The only question is whether we die well or die badly. He's right, of course. In 3 years, you've watched hundreds of men enter the ludus. You can count on one hand those who left alive and free. The mathematics of survival are brutal and unforgiving. But mathematics don't account for friendship, for loyalty, for the bonds forged between men who've shared everything except hope. Listen to me, you say quietly, stepping closer so no one else can overhear. We both know how this works. The crowd wants blood, but they want to show more. Give them a fight they'll never forget, and maybe, just maybe, the editor will spare the loser. Gaius considers this carefully. You've both seen it happen, though rarely. A spectacular battle, a defeated gladiator who shows extraordinary courage in the face of death, a crowd moved to mercy by pure Roman virtue. It's possible. Barely possible. But possible. You're asking me to choreograph our friendship's funeral, he says slowly. I'm asking you to help me save both our lives. For a long moment, he studies your face with those intelligent eyes that see too much. Then, gradually, he nods. All right, brother. We'll give them a show they'll sing about in taverns for years, and maybe, if the gods have any justice left, we'll both live to drink wine in those taverns ourselves. The sun continues its relentless descent toward the western horizon, painting the ludus walls the color of dried blood. Around you, 12 men prepare for what might be their final sunset. Some pray to gods who seem to have forgotten them. Some sharpen weapons that are already razor keen. Some simply sit in silence, gathering whatever peace they can find. You spend the remaining time doing the only thing that makes sense, teaching Titus everything you can cram into a few precious hours. Combat techniques, psychological tricks, ways to read an opponent's intentions before they fully form them. It's probably hopeless. Achilles is a killer with decades of experience. Titus is a potter's son with 2 weeks of training, but you teach him anyway because that's what Discipulus would have done. That's what humans do for each other, even in the most inhuman circumstances. As the shadows lengthen and the first cool breeze of evening stirs the dust in the courtyard, you realize something profound. Tomorrow you might die, but today you've lived. You've helped a friend, shared knowledge, maintained your humanity in a place designed to strip it away. That's victory of a sort. Not the kind the crowd pays to see, but the kind that matters when you're looking up at the Roman sky for what might be the last time. The evening horn sounds across the ludus. Training resumes soon, your final preparation before the games. Time to ready your body for what your heart already knows. Tomorrow, everything changes. Chapter 5. Tools of Death and Glory. The armory is a temple to violence. You stand at the threshold of the weapon chamber, breathing in the familiar scent of leather oil, metal polish, and the lingering ghost of blood that no amount of cleaning can completely erase. Rows of deadly instruments line the walls like votive offerings to Mars himself. Swords, shields, helmets, and armor pieces that have witnessed 1,000 deaths and might witness 1,000 more. This is where gladiators become legends, or corpses. "Form up!" Cassius barks from the center of the room. The head trainer stands beside a long wooden table covered in weapons, his scarred face grim with the weight of what tomorrow will bring. Tonight, you arm yourselves not for practice, but for glory, or death. The gods will decide which. The 12 men selected for tomorrow's games shuffle forward with the reluctant urgency of the condemned. You take your place in line, acutely aware of Gaius standing just behind you. His presence feels different now, not the comfortable companionship of the last 3 years, but something heavier, more complex. Tomorrow, his hands might be the last thing you see. Each gladiator will be fitted with armor appropriate to his class. Cassius continues, his voice carrying the ritual authority of a priest conducting sacrifice. Remember, this equipment isn't just protection. It's part of your identity, your story, the character you play for Rome's entertainment. He's right about that. Every piece of gladiator equipment tells a story to the crowd. The net fighter's minimal armor speaks of speed and desperation. The heavy fighter's massive shield promises grinding, methodical combat. Your gear as a Thraex, a Thracian fighter, tells the tale of a barbarian warrior using cunning and agility to overcome Roman might. The irony isn't lost on you that you actually are a Thracian warrior. Sometimes the mask and the man beneath it are the same thing. "Marcus the Thracian," Cassius calls out. "Step forward." Your legs feel like lead as you approach the weapons table. 3 years of training have led to this moment, the ritual arming before your most important fight. Maybe your last fight. Cassius lifts a curved sword from the table with ceremonial care. Your Sika, the traditional weapon of Thracian fighters. The blade is roughly 18 inches long, curved like a sickle, with a wicked point designed for thrusting, and a cutting edge sharp enough to slice through leather and flesh with equal ease. This Sika has seen 43 fights, Cassius tells you as he places the weapon in your hands. 28 victories, 15 defeats. The blade remembers every drop of blood it has spilled. The sword feels perfect in your grip. Not too heavy, not too light, balanced exactly where your thumb meets the crossguard. You give it a few experimental cuts through the air, listening to the whisper of steel parting nothing. The sound is beautiful and terrible. Your shield, Cassius continues, lifting a small rectangular piece from another table. The Parma is barely 2 feet across, much smaller than a Myrmidon's tower shield, but perfectly suited to the Thracian fighting style. Bronze-faced wood with iron rim. Light enough for quick movement, strong enough to turn aside most strikes. You strap the shield to your left arm, feeling the familiar weight settle into place. The bronze face bears dents and scratches from previous battles, each mark a story of desperation, skill, or luck. Greaves, Cassius says, kneeling to fasten the bronze leg guards around your shins. High protection for the Thracian style. Your legs are your greatest weapons. They must be protected. The greaves are works of art as much as protection. Embossed with images of griffins and geometric patterns, they transform your legs into something that belongs more in myth than reality. But beneath the decorative beauty lies practical steel, designed to stop a blade from hamstringing you in the crucial moments of combat. And finally, your helmet. Cassius lifts the most elaborate piece of all, the distinctive headgear that marks you as a Thracian fighter. The helmet is a masterpiece of metalwork covering your entire head except for a narrow slit across the eyes. The crest rises high above your skull, decorated with feathers and bronze work that catches the torchlight. But as beautiful as it is, the helmet is also your greatest vulnerability. The eye slit limits your vision to a narrow band directly in front of you. Peripheral attacks become nearly impossible to see coming. You'll have to rely on sound, instinct, and 3 years of brutal training to keep you alive. Cassius settles the helmet over your head, and suddenly the world changes. Sound becomes muffled. Your breathing echoes inside the bronze chamber. The narrow eye slit transforms your vision into a letterbox view of reality. How does it feel? Cassius asks, his voice seeming to come from very far away. You turn your head slowly, testing the weight and balance. The helmet is heavier than you remembered, at least 10 pounds of bronze and iron sitting on your neck. By the end of a long fight, that weight will feel like carrying a millstone, like being buried alive, you answer honestly. Good. If it felt comfortable, I'd be worried about your survival instincts. You step back from the weapons table, fully armed now for the first time in months. The weight of the equipment is significant, perhaps 40 pounds total, but distributed well enough that movement remains possible. You practice a few basic combinations: thrust, parry, shield bash, recover. The gear moves with you like a second skin. Across the armory, other gladiators undergo their own arming rituals. Quintus receives the light equipment of a retiarius: net, trident, dagger, and minimal armor that leaves most of his body exposed. His strategy will be mobility and range, using the net to entangle his heavily armored opponent before finishing him with the trident. Maximus, his opponent, dons the full panoply of a secutor, a chaser designed specifically to hunt net fighters. His helmet has no openings except tiny eye holes, and his massive rectangular shield could protect a small family. He looks like a walking fortress, slow but nearly invulnerable. Young Titus struggles with the gear of a Myrmidon, equipment he's barely trained with, far too heavy for his slight frame. The shield alone probably weighs 30 pounds, and you can see him stagger slightly as he tries to maneuver with it. Achilles, meanwhile, arms himself as a Thrax like you, but with the casual confidence of a man who's killed 23 opponents. Gaius the Gaul, Cassius calls out. Step forward. Your friend, your enemy, your brother, approaches the weapons table with the steady gait of a man walking to his execution, or yours. Gaius will fight as a murmillo, a classic heavy infantry gladiator. His equipment mirrors that of a Roman legionnaire. Large rectangular shield, straight gladius sword, heavy armor, and a helmet with a distinctive fish crest that gives the fighting class its name. You watch him arm himself with the same ritual care you received, and something cold settles in your stomach. In a few minutes, you'll face each other in practice combat, a final rehearsal before tomorrow's deadly performance. But already you're analyzing his movements, looking for weaknesses, cataloging the ways his equipment might be used against him. The thought makes you sick, but not sick enough to stop doing it. "Weapons check," Cassius announces. "Test your equipment. Find problems now, not when your life depends on it." The armory fills with the sound of metal on metal as gladiators test their gear. Sword against shield, armor flexing and settling, the scrape of bronze against bronze. It sounds like a battle already beginning. You run through your own checks methodically. The Sika's grip feels secure, no slippage even when your palms sweat. The shield's strapping holds firm under pressure. The greaves don't restrict your movement. The helmet, despite its weight and limited vision, stays balanced even during rapid head movements. Everything is perfect. Everything is ready for killing. "Marcus," Gaius's voice reaches you through the bronze chamber of your helmet. He's fully armed now too, transformed from your friend into a mobile fortress of muscle and metal. You turn to face him, and the world becomes surreal. Here stands the man who's shared your cell for 3 years, who's listened to your nightmares and shared his own fears. But now he's encased in armor designed for one purpose: your destruction. "How do I look?" he asks, and you can hear the attempt at humor in his muffled voice. "Like a man who could kill me," you answer honestly. "Good, because tomorrow, that's exactly what I might have to do." The words hang between you like a blade. Not anger, not hatred, just terrible necessity. "Gaius," you begin, but he cuts you off with a raised gauntleted hand. "Don't," he says quietly. "Don't make this harder than it already is. We both know what we have to do. Let's just be professionals about it." Professional killers. Is that what 3 years of friendship has reduced you to? "Practice bouts," Cassius bellows across the armory. "Final rehearsal before tomorrow's games. Fight with steel, but remember, wound your opponent tonight, and you both die tomorrow. The editor wants healthy gladiators, not cripples." The other gladiators pair off according to tomorrow's matchings. Steel rings against steel as they run through combat routines, testing timing and distance with their assigned weapons. It's strange to watch men practice killing each other while being careful not to cause actual harm. You and Gaius face each other in a clear section of the armory floor. Your weapons are live steel now, not the wooden practice equipment of the training yard. One mistake, one moment of real aggression, and this rehearsal becomes a tragedy. "Ready?" Gaius asks, settling into his fighting stance behind that massive shield. You nod and assume your own position, crouched low, Sika held in a reverse grip, ready to dart in and out like a striking snake. The first exchange is cautious, professional. Gaius advances steadily behind his shield wall, Gladius probing for openings. You circle him, staying just outside striking range, looking for gaps in his defense. It's exactly how you've sparred hundreds of times before, but everything feels different now. Each movement carries weight, consequence, the knowledge that tomorrow this dance will be performed in earnest. "Your footwork is sloppy," Gaius comments as you pivot around his shield side. "Nerves?" "Shut up and fight," you reply. But there's no heat in it, just the familiar banter of warriors who know each other too well. You press the attack, using your speed advantage to probe his defenses. Low thrust at his legs, blocked by his shield. High cut toward his helmet, parried by his gladius. A feint toward his sword arm that draws him out of position, followed by a real attack that stops just short of his ribs. Point to you, he acknowledges, resetting his stance. But in the arena, I wouldn't have fallen for that feint. In the arena, that thrust would have found your heart. Would it? His next advance is faster, more aggressive. The gladius darts out like a serpent's tongue, forcing you to give ground rapidly. What about now? The practice bout continues for several minutes, both of you holding back just enough to avoid actual injury while still testing each other's skills. It's professional, technical, almost choreographed. It's also heartbreaking. With every exchange, you're forced to confront the reality of tomorrow. This man whose weaknesses you're cataloging is the same man who held you while you wept for your dead wife. This warrior, whose timing you're measuring, shared his bread with you during the hungry months. This enemy, whose death you're planning, taught you half of everything you know about survival. Enough, Cassius calls out, ending the practice session. Save your strength for tomorrow. Rome awaits. You and Gaius step apart, both breathing heavily inside your helmets. For a moment, you just stand there, two friends disguised as enemies, trying to process what just happened. We're going to put on a hell of a show, Gaius says finally, pulling off his helmet and shaking sweat from his hair. The crowd will love it, you agree, removing your own headgear. The cool air feels like salvation against your sweaty face. But behind the professional assessment, you both know the truth. Tomorrow, one of you dies. All the planning, all the hope for mutual survival, all the dreams of spectacular entertainment earning mercy from the editor. None of it changes the fundamental mathematics of the arena. Steel against steel, skill against skill, brother against brother. Only one of you will walk away. As you carefully clean and store your equipment under the watchful eyes of the armory guards, you try not to think about the fact that these weapons might be the last things you ever hold. That this armor might become your burial shroud. That tomorrow's sunset might paint the sky above your corpse. Instead, you focus on the ritual of maintenance. Oil for the leather, polish for the bronze, a careful inspection of every strap and buckle that might fail at the crucial moment. Your life depends on these tools now. Your death might come from them as well. The armory empties slowly as gladiators complete their preparations. Soon, only you and the weapons remain. Instruments of death waiting patiently for tomorrow's symphony of violence. You take one last look around the chamber that has armed so many warriors for their final performance. The torchlight flickers across rows of deadly beauty, each piece a work of art designed for the ugliest purpose imaginable. Tomorrow, you'll return here one final time, to arm yourself for glory, or to have your equipment stripped from your corpse and prepared for the next man brave enough or desperate enough to wear it. The tools of death and glory wait patiently in the shadows, just like you. Chapter 6. The Philosophy of a Condemned Man. Night falls over the ludus like a burial shroud. You lie on your straw mattress in the suffocating darkness of your cell, listening to the sounds of condemned men trying to sleep. Gaius is breathing beside you, deep, controlled, the rhythm of a warrior who's learned to find rest even on the eve of battle. Titus's quiet whimpering from the far corner, punctuated by whispered prayers to gods who seem deaf to gladiator pleas. The restless shifting of 6 other men, each wrestling with his own demons. Tomorrow, half of you will be dead. The knowledge sits in your chest like a cold stone. Not fear exactly. You've lived with fear so long it's become familiar as breathing. This is something deeper. The strange clarity that comes when a man stares directly into the face of his own mortality and refuses to blink. You've been here before, of course. Every gladiator has. The night before your first fight 3 years ago, you were certain death would claim you before the sun set again, but somehow you survived. Then the second fight. Then the third. 17 victories in total, each one a small miracle, a temporary reprieve from the inevitable. But this time feels different. This time, you're not fighting some stranger whose name you barely know. This time, your opponent is the man whose steady breathing you've listened to for 1,000 nights. Can't sleep either. Gaius's voice cuts through the darkness, so quiet you almost think you imagined it. Sleep is for men with futures, you whisper back. He chuckles softly, a sound like distant thunder. Remember what old Flavius used to say? Every day above ground is a good day, even if you spend it in chains. Flavius, the ancient gladiator who'd been here when you arrived, a toothless veteran of 60 fights who somehow survived to die in his sleep rather than on the sand. He'd been full of such sayings, bits of philosophy cobbled together from years of staring death in the face. Flavius also said that hoping for tomorrow was the fastest way to ruin today, you remind him. True, but he lived to be 43 in a profession where most die before 25. Maybe his philosophy wasn't completely worthless. You consider this. Gladiator wisdom is a strange thing. Part Stoic philosophy absorbed from educated Roman spectators, part barbarian fatalism brought from conquered lands, part desperate logic born from the simple need to keep breathing one more day. The truth is, every gladiator becomes a philosopher eventually. When your life can end with the next swing of a sword, you start thinking deeply about what life means, what death means, and what, if anything, lies beyond the final darkness. Marcus, Gaius continues, his voice even quieter now. If tomorrow goes badly for one of us, I want you to know something. Don't, you warn him. Don't start writing your funeral speech. Listen to me. There's steel in his voice now, the tone he uses when teaching newer gladiators techniques that might save their lives. If I fall tomorrow, I want you to know it will be with pride. Not shame, not regret. Pride. Pride in dying? Pride in dying as myself, as Gaius of the Helvetii, son of Vercingetorix, warrior of the mountain clans. His voice carries the weight of ancestral honor. For 3 years, Rome has tried to make me forget who I am. They've called me slave, gladiator, property. They've forced me to fight for their entertainment, to kill for their pleasure. You wait, knowing he needs to say this. But tomorrow, when I step into that arena, I'll be fighting as a free man. Not because the chains are gone, but because I choose to remember who I was before they captured my body. They own my flesh, Marcus, but my spirit. My spirit belongs to the mountains and the gods of my people. His words hit you like a physical blow, because they echo thoughts you've been wrestling with for 3 years. The Romans excel at breaking men, not just their bodies, but their sense of self. They take warriors and turn them into entertainment. They take free men and make them property. They take your name, your identity, your very soul, and reshape it all for their amusement. But they can only do it if you let them. You sound like a Stoic philosopher, you tell him, trying to lighten the mood. Maybe I am. Did you know Marcus Aurelius himself wrote about gladiators? Called us examples of how men should face death, with courage, dignity, and acceptance of fate. Easy words from a man who'll never feel sand under his feet or hear 50,000 voices screaming for his blood. True, Gaius admits. But maybe he had a point about dignity, about choosing how we face the end. You shift on your straw mattress, trying to find a position that doesn't aggravate the day's collection of bruises. Outside your cell, you can hear guards making their rounds, the steady tramp of hobnailed boots on stone, the jingle of keys, the occasional harsh challenge as they check locks and count prisoners. They're not really guarding against escape attempts. Where would you go? Every gladiator is marked by scars, by the distinctive muscle development that comes from years of combat training. You could run, but you'd never be able to hide what you are. No, the guards are there to prevent suicide. Rome has invested too much in training you to let you cheat them of their entertainment by opening your veins in the darkness. Tell me about your wife, Gaius says suddenly. The request catches you off guard. In 3 years, you've barely spoken of Lydia to anyone. The memory is too precious, too painful, too private to share even with your closest friend. But tonight feels different. Tonight, the normal rules don't apply. Her name was Lydia, you begin, surprised by how steady your voice sounds. We married when I was 20, she was 18. Her father was a blacksmith, mine a warrior. It should have been a poor match, but you close your eyes, though the darkness is already complete, and let yourself remember. Her laugh, bright as silver bells, the way she hummed while grinding grain, her small, strong hands that could shape iron into beauty or tend wounds with equal skill. She was pregnant when the Romans came, you continue. 6 months along. We'd felt the baby moving, kicking against her belly like he was eager to fight his way into the world. We were certain it was a boy. Don't ask me why. Just certain. The memory brings pain sharper than any sword thrust. I told her I'd build him a wooden sword for his 3rd birthday. Teach him to fight like his father and grandfather before him. What happened? The question you've been dreading and needing to answer for 3 years. The Romans came in winter. Not the legions. We'd have seen them coming, had time to flee to the mountains. No, these were auxiliary troops. Germans and Gauls fighting for Roman gold, men who knew our land and our ways. You can still see it clearly, the column of smoke rising from your village, the screams echoing across the frozen valley, your desperate race to reach your home before. I was too late, you whisper. By the time I fought through their lines, the house was burning. I found her inside, tried to carry her out, but the words stick in your throat like poison. Even now, 3 years later, you can smell the smoke. Feel her blood on your hands. Hear her final whisper. Save our son. But you couldn't save anyone. Not her. Not the child who died with her. Not even yourself. I'm sorry, brother, Gaius says quietly. I shouldn't have asked. No, it's good to remember. Sometimes I think I'm forgetting her face, forgetting the sound of her voice. The memories are all I have left of who I used to be. Marcus of Thrace, husband of Lydia, father of... What would you have named the boy? Alexios, you answer without hesitation. After my grandfather. He was a great warrior, fought the Greeks when they tried to conquer our lands. Alexios would have been proud of his father. Would he? His father is a slave who kills for Roman entertainment. His father is a man who survived 3 years of hell and never lost his humanity. Gaius's voice carries absolute conviction. A man who teaches weaker fighters techniques that might save their lives. A man who shares his bread with hungry boys and protects them from cruelty when he can. That doesn't balance the scales, Gaius. Doesn't make up for the men I've killed. Maybe not. But it proves you're still Marcus of Thrace, not just another piece of Roman property. Silence falls between you, broken only by the night sounds of the ludus. Somewhere in the distance, a gladiator cries out in his sleep. Whether from nightmare or memory, you can't tell. The difference has become academic anyway. What about you? You ask eventually. Any family waiting in your mountains? Gaius is quiet for so long you think he's fallen asleep. When he finally speaks, his voice carries a pain that makes your own losses seem almost bearable. A wife, 2 daughters. The youngest was only 3 when they took me. He pauses, and you hear him swallow hard. Her first word was, "Papa." I taught her to walk by letting her grab my fingers and toddle between the furniture. She had her mother's eyes, bright blue like mountain lakes in summer. What were their names? Brigantia, my wife, strong as iron, beautiful as sunrise. The girls were Eponina and little Karatica, named for heroes of our people. His voice breaks slightly on the last name. They think I'm dead, Marcus. Have to think I'm dead. It's better that way. Why? Because if they knew I was alive, they'd hope. They'd wait. They'd refuse to remarry, refuse to move on, refuse to heal. The mattress creaks as he shifts position. Hope is a poison when there's no cure for the disease. You understand. It's the same reason you've never tried to send word home to whatever remains of your family. Better they mourn you once and move forward than spend years waiting for a ghost to return. Do you ever wonder what the point is? You ask. All this suffering, all this death, for what? Roman entertainment? The emperor's popularity? The profits of slave traders? Every day, he admits. But I think I've figured something out over these 3 years. The Romans can force us to fight, but they can't force us to be the monsters they want us to be. What do you mean? I mean, every time I help train a new gladiator, every time I show mercy to a defeated opponent when I can, every time I choose honor over survival, that's my rebellion. Small, invisible, meaningless to everyone but me. But it's how I stay human in an inhuman world. His words resonate deep in your chest. You think about young Titus, about the techniques you taught him this afternoon, about the bread you shared at lunch. Small acts of kindness that accomplish nothing except preserving the illusion that you're still a man rather than a weapon. Maybe that's enough. Maybe preserving your humanity is victory enough, even if you die tomorrow. The Stoics say that we can't control what happens to us. Gaius continues, his voice taking on the cadence of a man working through a complex philosophical problem. But we can control how we respond to what happens. A slave can be more free than his master if he chooses his responses wisely. Pretty words, you say, but without sarcasm. Think they'll comfort us when we're bleeding out in the sand? I hope so. I really hope so. A new sound drifts through the cell. Young Titus, praying in a whisper so quiet you have to strain to hear the words. Latin mixed with what sounds like the rustic dialect of his hometown. He's asking for courage, for skill, for a quick death, if courage and skill aren't enough. Should we tell him? Gaius asks, following your attention to the boy's desperate whispers. Tell him what? That the gods don't listen to gladiator prayers, that if they cared about justice, places like this wouldn't exist. You consider this. 3 years of prayers have brought you nothing but more fights, more scars, more nights lying sleepless on straw mattresses. If the gods exist, They seem remarkably indifferent to human suffering. But then you remember Decebalus, the Dacian who taught you to survive. Remember his words on the night before his final fight. Maybe the gods don't answer prayers the way we expect. Maybe survival isn't the only blessing. Maybe dignity is a blessing too. Maybe courage is. Maybe the chance to die as ourselves instead of as what others want us to be. Let him pray, you tell Gaius. Even if the gods aren't listening, maybe he is. Maybe that's what matters. You think prayer changes the one praying? I think a man who can still hope for divine mercy hasn't lost his soul completely. The conversation trails off into comfortable silence. Around you, the ludus settles into its nighttime rhythms, guards changing shifts, the distant sound of some gladiator weeping for his lost life, the scratch of rats in the walls, searching for crumbs. You close your eyes and try to find that quiet place inside yourself, the place where Marcus of Thrace still lives, untouched by Roman chains or arena sand. The place where you're still a husband, still a father of dreams, still a free man who chooses his own path. Tomorrow, you'll step into the arena wearing the mask of a Thracian gladiator. But underneath the bronze and leather, you'll still be yourself. You'll fight with skill, learned through suffering, but also with honor inherited from generations of mountain warriors. And if you fall, when you fall, it will be as Marcus of Thrace, not as Rome's entertainment. That knowledge brings something approaching peace. Not happiness, not hope exactly, but a kind of resigned strength. You've found the one thing they can't take from you, the choice of who you'll be in your final moments. Whether those moments come tomorrow or years from now, you'll meet them as yourself. The philosophy of a condemned man is simple. If you must die, die as the person you choose to be. Outside your cell, Rome sleeps peacefully, dreaming of tomorrow's games and the spectacular deaths they'll witness. Citizens who've never held a sword or felt sand between their toes as they fight for their lives will cheer and jeer and bet on human suffering. But here, in the darkness of the ludus, 12 men prepare to give them more than entertainment. You prepare to give them lessons in courage, dignity, and what it means to die free, even in chains. Chapter 7. The March to Glory. Dawn comes like a blade across your throat. The first rays of sunlight slice through the high window of your cell, painting everything the color of blood. You've been awake for hours already. Sleep was impossible, and you stopped trying sometime during the darkest part of the night. Instead, you've spent the pre-dawn hours listening to your heartbeat, feeling the air move in and out of your lungs, cataloging all the small sensations of being alive. Today, those sensations might end forever. Rise and shine, heroes. The guard's voice echoes down the corridor like a funeral bell. Today you make Rome proud. Today you die with honor. His cheerfulness is obscene. To him, you're not men facing death. You're entertainment, scheduled programming, a day's work that ends when the last body is dragged from the arena sand. Around you, the other condemned gladiators stir to wakefulness. Gaius sits up slowly, his massive frame unfolding like a siege engine preparing for war. His face shows no emotion, but you've known him long enough to see the tension in his shoulders, the careful way he controls his breathing. Young Titus jerks awake with a gasp, momentarily confused about where he is and why. Then memory crashes down on him like a collapsing building, and his face goes white with terror. Easy, boy, you tell him quietly. One moment at a time, one breath at a time. He nods frantically, trying to control the panic that threatens to overwhelm him. You understand the feeling. Your first arena fight, you vomited 3 times before they got you to the gates. Fear is a gladiator's oldest companion. The trick is learning to dance with it instead of letting it paralyze you. The morning routine proceeds with mechanical efficiency. Guards unlock cells, prisoners shuffle to the washing area, cold water shock awakens bodies that have spent the night wrestling with nightmares. But everything feels different today. The usual conversations are muted. Men who normally joke and banter move in grim silence. Everyone knows that some of these morning rituals are being performed for the last time. Breakfast is the same swill as always: barley porridge, stale bread, vinegar water. But today, it tastes like ash in your mouth. Your stomach rebels against food, knowing that in a few hours it might be spilling its contents onto arena sand along with your life's blood. Still, you force yourself to eat. A weak gladiator is a dead gladiator, and you haven't survived 3 years by making stupid mistakes. Gather your courage, Gaius mutters, spooning down his portion with mechanical determination. Food is fuel. Fuel is life. What if I can't do it? Titus whispers, staring at his untouched bowl. What if I freeze out there? What if I just stand there and let him kill me? It's the fear that haunts every gladiator, not death itself, but dying badly. Dying as a coward. Disappointing the crowd that has paid to see heroism, not pathetic whimpering. You won't freeze, you tell him with more confidence than you feel. When the moment comes, training takes over. Your body knows what to do, even if your mind doesn't. But Achilles, he's killed 23 men, and every one of them thought he was invincible until the moment they proved him mortal. You lean closer, lowering your voice. Listen to me, boy. You're going to die today. Accept that. Make peace with it. But choose how you die. Die fighting. Die swinging your sword. Die making him work for it. The words are harsh, but necessary. False hope will get him killed faster than honest terror. After breakfast comes the ritual that every gladiator dreads. The final armoring. Not practice gear this time, but the real instruments of death and glory, polished to mirror brightness and blessed by priests of Mars. The procession to the armory feels like a funeral march. You don your equipment with ceremonial precision. The curved sika, sharp enough to cut shadows. The small shield, painted with symbols that tell your story to the crowd. The bronze greaves that transform your legs into works of art. And finally, the helmet. That magnificent, terrible piece that marks you as a Thracian warrior while simultaneously preparing you for death. When you're fully armed, you catch your reflection in a polished bronze mirror. The man staring back at you looks like a god of war, every inch the barbarian hero the crowd expects to see. But behind the bronze face mask, your eyes are still human, still afraid, still alive. Form ranks, Cassius bellows across the armory. Time to give Rome what it paid for. The 12 condemned gladiators shuffle into formation. 6 pairs, each representing a different style of combat, each telling a different story of violence and valor. You find yourself standing next to Quintus, the weasel-faced information broker, who somehow managed to avoid this moment for 4 years. Today, his luck runs out. Any last wisdom? He asks you, trying to keep his voice light despite the terror you can smell rolling off him like fog. Yeah, you tell him. Die better than you lived. It's cruel but honest. Quintus has survived through betrayal, manipulation, and cowardice. Today, he gets the chance to discover if there's anything noble buried beneath all that calculation. The march begins. Heavy wooden doors swing open, revealing the tunnel that leads from the ludus to the Colosseum. It's barely wide enough for two men to walk abreast, carved from living stone and stretching away into darkness. The walls are smooth, polished by the passage of countless gladiators over the decades. How many men have walked this path? How many have returned? Your hobnailed sandals ring against the stone floor as you march, creating a rhythm like distant drums. The sound echoes off the tunnel walls, multiplying and amplifying until it becomes a symphony of approaching doom. With each step, the noise grows louder. Not the echo of your footsteps, but something else. Something vast and hungry and utterly terrifying. The roar of the crowd. 50,000 voices, all screaming at once. The sound hits you like a physical force even through the stone walls. It's not human. No single human throat could produce that volume of sound. It's the voice of Rome itself, demanding blood and spectacle and death. Jesus, Titus whispers beside you. How many people? All of them, Gaius answers from behind. Everyone who matters in Rome will be watching today. Senators, merchants, aristocrats, slaves given the day off. Everyone who wants to see barbarians kill each other for their amusement. The tunnel stretches on forever. Each step brings you closer to the arena, closer to the sand, closer to the moment when you'll have to try to kill your best friend. Your armor clanks with each movement, a metallic percussion that speaks of violence and finality. Halfway through the tunnel, you pass a shrine to Nemesis, the goddess of revenge and divine retribution. Someone has left offerings, flowers, coins, a small cup of wine that's already turned sour in the heat. A placard beside the shrine bears a simple message. For those who die today, may your deaths have meaning. What meaning could there be in this? What divine purpose is served by forcing friends to slaughter each other for entertainment? If the gods exist, they're either blind or cruel beyond comprehension. But you touch the shrine anyway as you pass, whispering a quick prayer to whatever forces might be listening. Not for victory. That would mean Gaius's death. Not for survival. That's probably impossible. Just for courage. For dignity. For the strength to die as yourself rather than as Rome's puppet. The tunnel begins to slope upward now, rising toward the surface. Somewhere above you, the greatest amphitheater in the world waits with its jaws open, ready to devour another sacrifice of human lives. The sound of the crowd is deafening now, even through stone and earth. You can feel it in your bones, in your teeth, in the marrow of your spine. 50,000 people who've come to watch you die, and they're already hungry for blood. Marcus, Gaius calls out from behind you. You turn, still marching, and see him struggling with something. What is it? I want you to have this. He presses something small and hard into your palm. For luck. You look down and see a small bronze amulet, a boar, the symbol of his tribal totem. You've seen him wear it during training sessions, hidden beneath his armor. It's probably the only thing he owns that truly belongs to him rather than to Rome. Gaius, I can't take this. You can, and you will. His voice carries the authority of command. If I fall today, I want it to survive with someone who understood what it meant to be free. The amulet is warm from his skin, worn smooth by years of handling. You close your fist around it and nod, not trusting yourself to speak. The tunnel curves ahead, and suddenly you can see light. Not torchlight or lamplight, but the harsh, unforgiving illumination of day. Roman sun, streaming down into the arena where 12 men will fight and half will die for the entertainment of an empire. Show time, Quintus mutters, but his voice breaks on the second syllable. The The sound of the crowd is overwhelming now, a wall of noise that seems to push against you with physical force. Through that terrible symphony, you begin to pick out individual elements. The stamp of feet on wooden benches, the clash of wine cups being raised in toast, the individual voices of spectators placing last-minute bets on who will live and who will die. They're betting on your life like it's a horse race. 20 steps from the tunnel mouth, Cassius raises his hand, and the procession stops. This is it. The final moment before you step from the safety of shadow into the blazing arena, where death waits with patient hunger. "Listen to me," the trainer calls out, his scarred face grim with the weight of what he's about to do. "You are gladiators. You are the finest warriors Rome has ever produced. Today, you fight not just for your lives, but for something greater. You fight for honor, for glory, for the chance to show 50,000 Romans what courage looks like in its purest form." His words are pretty, but they don't change the mathematics of survival. 6 fights, 6 winners, 6 losers who'll never see another sunset. Remember your training. Remember your skills. Remember that dying well is better than living badly. Cassius draws his sword and raises it high. Now go. Make Rome proud. The final march begins. 1 step, 2, 3. The light grows brighter, harsher, more real with each movement forward. You can smell the arena now. Hot sand, exotic animals, the sweet, sick scent of blood that never completely washes out of the killing ground. 5 steps. 6. The crowd noise is deafening, a physical assault on your senses that makes your helmet ring like a bell. Individual voices emerge from the chaos. 20 denarii on the Thracian. The Gaul looks strong. Kill him quickly. They're talking about you, about your death, about how entertaining your final moments might be. 10 steps. The tunnel mouth yawns ahead like the throat of some vast beast. Beyond it, you can see a slice of arena sand, blindingly white in the afternoon sun. Somewhere out there, 50,000 people wait to see you bleed. "Ready?" Gaius asks from beside you. "No," you answer honestly, "but let's do it anyway." 15 steps. The light is so bright now it hurts even through your helmet's eye slits. You can see the curve of the arena wall rising impossibly high around the killing ground. Tier upon tier of seats, all filled with Romans who've come to watch gladiators die. 20 steps. And then you're out. The roar hits you like a tsunami of sound, so loud it makes your armor vibrate. 50,000 voices screaming at once, a wall of noise that seems to come from every direction at once. Your vision, already limited by the helmet, is further narrowed by the sheer sensory overload. The arena stretches out before you, like a vision from the underworld. The sand is pristine white, unmarked by blood but hungry for it. The walls rise 30 feet on all sides, too high to climb, topped with nets designed to keep wild animals from leaping into the crowd. And above it all, tier upon tier of spectators. More people than you've ever seen in one place, all of them focused on you with the intensity of predators watching prey. "Walk forward," Cassius commands, his voice barely audible over the crowd noise. "Let them see what they've paid for." The procession of gladiators moves across the sand toward the emperor's box, where the most powerful man in the world waits to decide who lives and who dies with the casual gesture of his thumb. Your legs feel like water, but training takes over, forcing one foot in front of the other. The crowd's roar changes as you march, becoming more focused, more excited. They can smell the approaching violence. They've paid good money to see men die, and they want value for their investment. Halfway across the arena, you make the mistake of looking up at the crowd. Thousands of faces, all focused on you with hungry intensity. Men placing bets, women waving silk scarves, children eating honey cakes while waiting to see human beings torn apart. For a moment, the sheer inhumanity of it overwhelms you. These people, citizens of the greatest civilization in history, have gathered to watch slaves kill each other for entertainment. They'll cheer when you fall. They'll applaud when your blood soaks into the sand. They'll go home tonight and tell their families about the spectacular deaths they witnessed. Then you remember Gaius's words from last night. They own my flesh, but my spirit belongs to the mountains and the gods of my people. Let them have their entertainment. Let them scream for blood. You'll give them something better. You'll show them what it means to die free, even in chains. The procession stops before the imperial box. Somewhere above you, behind walls of purple silk and golden ornaments, the Emperor of Rome waits to be entertained by your death. Cassius raises his sword and delivers the ritual greeting that every gladiator knows by heart. Hail, Caesar. We who are about to die salute you. The traditional response comes back from 50,000 throats. Hail, Caesar. Let the games begin. This is it. The moment you've been dreading and anticipating for 3 years. In minutes, you'll face Gaius in single combat. One of you will walk away. One of you will become just another stain in the sand. But first, the warm-up acts, the executions, animal hunts, and preliminary entertainments that whet the crowd's appetite for the main event. You're not just a gladiator anymore. You're the star of Rome's greatest theater, playing the lead role in a tragedy that ends with your death. The crowd roars its approval as you take your place at the edge of the arena, waiting for your moment in the sun. Your last moment, quite possibly. But you'll make it count. Chapter 8. Spectacle before slaughter. The arena transforms into a theater of horrors. You stand at the edge of the killing ground, watching as Rome prepares to entertain itself with death. The sand beneath your feet is still pristine white, but you know that in a few short hours it will be soaked crimson with the blood of condemned men, possibly your own. But first, the warm-up acts. A blast of trumpets echoes across the Colosseum, their bronze voices cutting through the crowd's roar like blades through silk. 50,000 spectators fall into relative quiet, their attention focused on the imperial box, where a figure in purple sits beneath a golden canopy. The emperor himself, the man who owns your life and will decide your death. From this distance, he's just a distant shape in expensive cloth, but his presence fills the arena like incense fills a temple. Every person in the Colosseum, from the wealthiest senator to the poorest freed slave, knows that they're in the presence of a god walking among mortals, a god who's come to watch men die for his amusement. Citizens of Rome. The herald's voice booms across the arena, amplified by the perfect acoustics of the amphitheater. Today, we celebrate the glory of the empire with games worthy of the gods themselves. The crowd erupts in cheers that make your armor ring like a bell. You've heard this speech a dozen times before, but it never loses its chilling effect. The casual way Romans speak about human slaughter, as if killing and dying are just another form of entertainment, like chariot races or theatrical performances. First, let us cleanse the arena of those who have offended against Roman law and Roman gods. Your stomach turns. The executions, the most revolting part of any games, where condemned criminals are fed to wild beasts or forced to fight without armor or training. It's not combat. It's ritualized murder disguised as justice. Gates open at the far end of the arena, and they drag the first victim into the sand. A young man, barely out of his teens, his hands bound behind his back. His crime was probably something pathetic, stealing bread, avoiding military service, speaking against the emperor while drunk. Nothing that deserves what's about to happen to him. The crowd leans forward in anticipation as handlers release a half-starved lion from its cage. The beast is magnificent and terrible, its mane golden in the afternoon sun, its muscles rippling beneath tawny fur. But its eyes hold the maddened hunger of an animal that's been deliberately starved to make it more vicious. The young criminal tries to run, of course. They all do. But the arena walls are too high, the sand too deep, the lion too fast. The hunt lasts maybe 30 seconds before razor-sharp claws bring down their prey. The crowd cheers as if they've witnessed something glorious instead of a butchering. You force yourself to watch, not because you enjoy it, the sight makes you sick, but because forgetting the reality of Roman justice is dangerous. This is what happens to men who displease the empire. This is what Rome does to those who refuse to bow. This is what they'll do to you if you ever forget that you're property, not a person. The executions continue for nearly an hour. Criminals thrown to lions, bears, leopards. Some are crucified and then torn apart by beasts while still alive. Others are forced to fight each other with blunt weapons until only one remains, then executed anyway, because Rome promised death, not mercy. Each death is met with roars of approval from the crowd. Citizens who would faint at the sight of a butcher slaughtering a pig for their dinner table cheer and applaud, as human beings are torn to pieces before their eyes. This is civilization, Roman style. And now, the herald announces as slaves rake the blood-soaked sand smooth again. Let us witness the hunt. The Venaciones, animal hunts that showcase the empire's power over the natural world. Exotic beasts from every corner of the known world, brought to Rome to die for the entertainment of people who've never ventured beyond the city walls. Professional beast hunters enter the arena, skilled fighters who specialize in animal combat. They're not gladiators exactly, but they're not far removed from your own profession. Men who kill for money and crowd approval, the only difference being their choice of opponent. First comes a rhinoceros from Africa, its thick hide scarred from transport and captivity. The beast is massive, powerful, but confused by the noise and the unfamiliar environment. It charges blindly at the hunters, who dodge with practiced ease and dart in with spears when opportunities present themselves. The crowd loves it. They scream advice, place bets on how long the animal will last, cheer every successful strike. To them, it's a display of Roman superiority over the barbarous world beyond their borders. Man's dominion over beast, civilization's triumph over wilderness. You see something different. You see a magnificent creature, torn from its homeland and tortured into madness, dying slowly for the amusement of people who will never understand what they've destroyed. The rhinoceros falls eventually, pierced by dozens of spear thrusts, its blood mixing with the sand in dark puddles. The crowd applauds as if they've witnessed something noble instead of a massacre. More animals follow. Tigers from India, their orange coats brilliant in the sunlight. Bears from Germania, standing on their hind legs and roaring defiance at their tormentors. Crocodiles from Egypt, snapping at anything that moves with jaws that could crush a man's skull like an egg. All of them die. All of them provide entertainment for people who mistake cruelty for courage. Enjoying the show? Quintus mutters beside you, his voice bitter with fear and disgust. About as much as I'd enjoy my own funeral, you reply. That might be next on the program. He's not wrong. Each passing minute brings you closer to your own moment in the sand. The preliminary entertainments are just that, preliminaries. The crowd is being warmed up, their bloodlust awakened, their appetites whetted for the main course. Gladiator fights. Your fights. As the animal hunts wind down, you catch sight of movement in the imperial box. The emperor is leaning forward, speaking with his advisors. You can't hear the conversation, but you can guess its content. Which gladiator fights should he attend to personally? Which deaths might be worth his divine attention? Your death, perhaps. The execution of Marcus the Thracian, veteran of 17 victories, friend killer, and crowd favorite. Look there, Gaius says quietly, nodding toward another section of the crowd. You follow his gaze and see something that makes your blood run cold. A section of seats reserved for gladiator families, wives, children, parents of fighters who've earned enough victories to afford such luxuries for their loved ones. They're here to watch their men fight, here to see husbands, sons, fathers kill or be killed for Roman entertainment. In the front row, a woman clutches a small child to her chest. The child can't be more than 5 years old, but he's wearing a miniature gladiator costume, complete with wooden sword and tiny shield. His mother's face is white with terror, but she smiles and waves when she sees the gladiators looking in her direction. Whose family is she? Which of your fellow condemned men has a wife and son watching his potential death? That's Felix's woman, Gaius says softly, reading your thoughts. The Egyptian. The boy is his firstborn, Felix the Egyptian, paired against Taurus the German in today's second fight. A decent fighter, skilled with sword and shield, but up against a man who's built like a siege engine and fights with the fury of a berserker. Felix's chances aren't good. His wife knows it. His son knows it too, even at 5 years old. But they've come anyway, because this might be their last chance to see him alive. The boy waves his wooden sword in the air, trying to get his father's attention. Felix sees him and raises his own weapon in salute, the bronze blade flashing in the sunlight. Father and son, separated by 30 feet of arena wall and an ocean of social class, sharing what might be their final moment together. The crowd notices the exchange and roars its approval. They love these touches of drama, these glimpses of human emotion that make the coming violence more poignant. The noble gladiator saying farewell to his family before dying bravely in the sand. It's exactly the kind of story that makes their entertainment feel meaningful instead of just brutal. But you know the truth. There's nothing noble about forcing a man to fight for his life while his family watches. There's nothing meaningful about a system that turns fathers into entertainers for their children's horror. Rome has many virtues, but mercy isn't one of them. Citizens of Rome! The herald's voice booms again. The morning's entertainments have prepared your souls for glory. Now witness true combat. Now see the finest warriors in the empire test their skills against worthy opponents. This is it. The moment you've been dreading since yesterday's pairings were announced. First contest, the herald continues. Castor of Gaul, veteran of 17 victories, against Brutus of Thrace, rising champion with 12 kills to his name. The first gladiator fight. 2 men you know, 2 warriors you've trained alongside for months or years. In minutes, one of them will be dead. Castor emerges from a gate at the far end of the arena, his armor gleaming like silver in the afternoon sun. He's a solid fighter, methodical and patient, the kind who wins through endurance rather than spectacular displays of skill. The crowd greets him with moderate enthusiasm. They respect his record, but he's not flashy enough to be a true favorite. Brutus appears from the opposite gate to much louder cheers. He's younger, more aggressive, the sort of fighter who gives the crowd the blood-soaked spectacles they crave. His armor bears fresh decorations, probably added this morning to make him look more impressive. The two gladiators meet in the center of the arena and salute each other with professional courtesy. Then they salute the imperial box, waiting for the signal that will begin their death match. The emperor raises his hand. 50,000 people hold their breath. His hand drops. The fight begins. Castor and Brutus circle each other warily, each looking for weakness, for opportunity, for the mistake that will end the other's life. Their weapons gleam as they test distances, probe defenses, establish the rhythm of combat. This is gladiatorial fighting at its finest, two skilled warriors using every trick they know to survive. But watching it feels like witnessing a murder in slow motion. These men have no quarrel with each other. They're fighting only because Rome demands entertainment, and entertainment requires death. The crowd screams advice, places bets, cheers every successful strike. They're completely absorbed in the spectacle, caught up in the drama of life and death playing out on the sand. But all you can think about is that in a few minutes, it will be your turn. Your turn to kill Gaius. Your turn to die by his hand. Your turn to provide entertainment for people who mistake brutality for bravery. The fight on the sand grows more intense, more desperate. Blood appears on both combatants now. Not fatal wounds, but enough to make the sand sticky beneath their feet and send the crowd into paroxysms of excitement. One of these men will die in the next few minutes. The other will live to fight again another day, carrying the memory of his friend's death for however long his own life lasts. Just like you and Gaius. The trumpet sounds. The preliminary entertainments are over. The real games are about to begin. Chapter 9. Sand, Steel, and Survival. The moment arrives like a sword thrust to the heart. Fourth contest! The herald's voice booms across the blood-soaked arena. Gaius of Gaul, the mountain bear, veteran of 19 victories against Marcus of Thrace, the Falcon of the North, 17 victories to his name. The crowd erupts. This is what they've been waiting for. Veteran against veteran, skill against skill. A fight between two gladiators with proven records and established reputations. The betting odds have been fluctuating wildly all morning, as spectators try to predict which warrior will walk away from this encounter. None of them know that you're about to try to kill your best friend. Your legs feel like water as you walk toward the arena gate. The weight of your armor, so familiar during training, now seems impossible to bear. Your Sika trembles slightly in your grip, and you have to force your fingers to maintain their hold on the leather-wrapped handle. 3 years of preparation have led to this moment. 3 years of learning to kill efficiently, brutally, entertainingly. 3 years of staying alive in a world designed to destroy you. All of it comes down to the next few minutes. Marcus. Gaius's voice cuts through your spiraling thoughts. He's walking beside you toward his own gate on the opposite side of the arena, his massive frame encased in the heavy armor of a myrmillo. Behind his helmet's bronze face mask, you can't see his expression, but his voice carries the same steady calm he's maintained for 3 years. Gaius, remember what we discussed? A good show. Something the crowd will talk about for years. You nod, not trusting your voice. The plan you hatched yesterday evening seems insane now that you're about to implement it. Put on such a spectacular fight that the editor will be moved to spare the loser. Give the crowd enough drama and skill to satisfy their bloodlust without requiring an actual death. It's possible. You've seen it happen before, though rarely. But possible. See you on the sand, brother, Gaius says quietly. See you on the sand. He turns toward his gate, and you continue toward yours. With each step, the roar of the crowd grows louder, more focused. more hungry. 50,000 people screaming for blood, and you're about to give them exactly what they want. Or die trying. The gate handler, a grizzled veteran who's seen 1,000 gladiators pass through these portals, checks your equipment one final time. Sika sharp enough to cut shadows, shield straps secure, armor fitted properly, helmet balanced and locked in place. Any final words for the living? He asks. It's a ritual question, asked of every gladiator before every fight. Tell them I died as Marcus of Thrace, you answer, not as Rome's entertainment. He nods solemnly and signals to the gate crew. Bronze hinges groan as the heavy wooden barrier swings open, revealing the killing ground beyond. The noise hits you like a physical blow. The crowd's roar becomes focused, personal, directed at you specifically. 50,000 voices chanting your name, your fighting record, your odds of survival. They know everything about you except the one thing that matters, that you're about to try to murder the man who's become closer than a brother. Your feet carry you forward without conscious command. Training takes over, moving your body while your mind struggles to process the enormity of what's happening. The sand beneath your sandals is no longer pristine white. It's been stained pink by the blood of the morning's entertainments, sticky with the life essence of animals and criminals and the gladiators who fought before you. Soon it will drink your blood too, or Gaius's. The arena seems impossibly vast as you walk toward its center. The walls rise 30 feet on all sides, topped with nets designed to keep wild beasts from escaping into the crowd. But there are no beasts here now, just two men who've been trained to be more dangerous than any lion. Halfway across the sand, you see Gaius emerging from the opposite gate. Even at this distance, his presence is unmistakable. The heavy armor of a Murmillo makes him look like a mobile siege engine, all bronze and leather and deadly purpose. His shield alone could protect a small family, and the gladius in his right hand has tasted blood in 19 previous fights. 19 men have died to make Gaius a crowd favorite. Today, you might become the 20th. The two of you approach the center of the arena like planets drawn into orbit around each other. The crowd's noise becomes background thunder as your attention focuses with combat-sharp intensity on the man you're about to fight. Every detail stands out with supernatural clarity. The way Gaius holds his shield slightly high, protecting his throat but leaving his lower ribs potentially vulnerable. The methodical pace of his approach, conserving energy for the fight ahead. The small dent in his helmet's face mask, probably from a training accident months ago. You know this man better than you know yourself. You've studied his fighting style for 3 years, sparred with him hundreds of times, learned his every strength and weakness. And he knows you just as well. That knowledge might be what kills you both. 10 feet apart now, close enough to see each other's eyes through the narrow slits in your helmets, close enough to smell the leather oil and bronze polish of each other's armor, close enough to begin the dance that will end with one of you bleeding out in the sand. Brothers, you say quietly, the word barely audible over the crowd's roar. Brothers, he agrees. You raise your weapons and salute, not to each other, but to the imperial box where the emperor waits to judge your performance. The traditional gesture that precedes every gladiator fight, acknowledging the man who holds your lives in his hands. The crowd falls into relative quiet, 50,000 people holding their breath in anticipation. This is the moment they've paid to see. 2 skilled warriors about to test their lives against each other's skill. The emperor raises his hand, a small gesture that will unleash violence and death. Time slows to a crawl. You can hear your own heartbeat inside your helmet, feel the weight of your armor, taste the metallic tang of fear on your tongue. Somewhere in the crowd, people are placing last-minute bets on which of you will survive the next few minutes. The Emperor's hand drops. Begin! Gaius doesn't charge. Neither do you. Professional gladiators know that the fighter who attacks first often dies first, especially when facing an equally skilled opponent. Instead, you circle each other warily, weapons ready, each looking for the opening that will end the fight quickly. The crowd begins to murmur, then boo. They want action, blood, spectacular displays of violence. But you're both too experienced to give them what they want immediately. This fight will be won by patience, skill, and the tiny mistakes that come when exhaustion sets in. Gaius probes your defenses with careful thrusts, testing your reactions without committing fully to any attack. You respond in kind, using your superior speed to dart in and out of range, looking for gaps in his armor. It's exactly like your sparring sessions, but with one crucial difference. The steel is sharp now, and mistakes will be measured in blood. First contact comes after 2 minutes of cautious maneuvering. Gaius advances behind his shield wall, Gladius darting out like a serpent's tongue. You pivot left, trying to get around his guard, and his blade catches your shoulder. The crowd roars as first blood appears on your bronze armor. It's not a serious wound, barely more than a scratch, but it's enough to satisfy the spectators that they're witnessing real combat. More importantly, it's exactly what you and Gaius planned. A minor wound that looks dramatic, but doesn't impair your fighting ability. The first step in your choreographed survival. You respond with a calculated attack of your own, your curved Sika, finding a gap between Gaius's arm guard and his side armor. Another minor wound, another splash of blood, another roar from the crowd. The fight begins to build momentum. Both of you are bleeding now, both looking appropriately desperate, both giving the crowd the kind of back-and-forth battle they crave. But every wound is carefully placed, every attack calculated to injure without killing. You're not just fighting for your lives. You're performing for 50,000 critics who will judge your deaths as harshly as they judge a bad play. The choreography becomes more complex as the fight progresses. Gaius lands a thrust to your thigh that sends you staggering dramatically, but doesn't sever any important muscles. You respond with a slash across his ribs that draws blood, but stops short of his vital organs. To the crowd, it looks like two warriors fighting desperately for survival. In reality, it's two friends trying to save each other's lives through superior acting. But even choreographed fights are dangerous when the weapons are real and the participants are exhausted. As the minutes tick by and your armor grows heavier, your breathing becomes more labored, your movements more sluggish. The margin for error grows smaller and smaller. A thrust that was supposed to miss your kidney by 2 inches misses by only 1. A slash aimed at Gaius's arm goes slightly wide and nearly opens his throat. Each exchange brings you closer to the moment when calculation becomes desperation and performance becomes genuine mortal combat. The crowd is on its feet now, screaming approval at the spectacle you're providing. This is exactly what they wanted. Skilled warriors testing each other's limits, blood flowing freely, the outcome genuinely in doubt. What they don't realize is that the outcome has been in doubt from the beginning, just not in the way they think. Getting tired, brother? Gaius calls out during a brief pause in the action. His voice is strained with exhaustion and something that might be fear. You too. You pant back. Your shoulder wound is burning like fire, and your thigh is starting to stiffen. The choreography is breaking down as physical reality overwhelms careful planning. The next exchange is faster, more desperate. Gaius comes at you with a combination you've never seen before, his gladius weaving patterns in the air that force you to give ground rapidly. Either he's improvising new techniques under pressure, or he's been holding back during 3 years of sparring. Your Sika darts out instinctively, looking for an opening, and finds one. The curved blade slips past his shield and bites deep into his sword arm, sending his gladius spinning away across the sand. The crowd erupts. The Gaul is disarmed, wounded, at your mercy. This is the moment they've been waiting for. The kill. The death blow that will end one warrior's story and cement the other's legend. Gaius falls to one knee, his shield still raised, but his sword arm hanging useless at his side. Blood drips steadily from the wound, staining the sand beneath him. He looks up at you through his helmet's eye slits, and you can see resignation in his eyes. "Do it," he says quietly. "Make it clean." The crowd is chanting now, a rhythmic roar that seems to shake the arena walls. Kill, kill, kill. You raise your Sika, its curved blade catching the sunlight. This is it, the moment of choice. You can end Gaius's suffering with a quick thrust to the throat. Give the crowd their death, earn your victory, live to fight another day. Or you can refuse. You can throw down your weapon, forfeit the fight, and die alongside your friend in defiance of Roman entertainment. Time hangs suspended like a sword blade in the air. 50,000 people wait for you to murder your best friend. The emperor watches from his golden box, ready to judge your performance. History itself seems to hold its breath. And then you remember something Decibelus told you 3 years ago. The only victory that matters is the one that lets you keep your soul. You lower your Sika. "Get up," you tell Gaius. "What?" "Get up. Fight me properly, with honor." The crowd's chant falters as they realize something unexpected is happening. This isn't following the usual script. The victor should kill the defeated, not help him to his feet. Gaius stares at you in amazement, then slowly rises. His sword arm is useless, his shield heavy as lead, but he's still breathing, still fighting. "You're insane," he says. "Probably. But I'd rather die insane than live as Rome's puppet." You step back, giving him space to recover. It's suicide, tactically speaking. You had the fight won, your opponent at your mercy, victory within reach. Now you're giving him another chance to kill you. The crowd doesn't know what to make of this development. Some boo your apparent cowardice. Others cheer your sportsmanship. Most are simply confused by behavior that doesn't fit their expectations. But in the imperial box, you see movement. The emperor himself is leaning forward, genuinely interested for the first time. This deviation from the script has caught his attention in a way that routine violence never could. Gaius retrieves his gladius with his offhand, awkward but still dangerous. His wounded arm hangs at his side, but his shield is still solid, his feet still quick. The fight isn't over. "Why?" he asks as you circle each other again. "Because this is our choice," you answer. Not Rome's, not the crowd's, ours. We decide how this ends. The second phase of the fight is different from the first. No more choreography, no more careful calculation. Just two exhausted, wounded warriors pushing their bodies beyond endurance, fighting not for the crowd, but for something more fundamental. Honor, brotherhood, the right to die as themselves rather than as Rome's entertainment. Gaius attacks with desperate fury, his offhand gladius work clumsy but powerful. You respond with everything you've learned in 3 years of survival. You're sick of dancing in patterns that would be beautiful if they weren't deadly. Blood flows more freely now. Real wounds, serious injuries, the kind that end careers if they don't end lives. Your choreography has been replaced by genuine desperation as both of you push past the point where technique matters and enter the realm where only will and luck determine survival. The crowd is silent now, transfixed by something they've never seen before. This isn't just gladiatorial combat. It's something primal, fundamental, a display of human courage that transcends entertainment and approaches art. In the imperial box, the emperor is standing. For the first time in years, the divine Caesar is witnessing something that genuinely surprises him. Your Sika finds Gaius's ribs again, this time biting deeper. His gladius opens a gash across your chest that sends blood streaming down your bronze armor. Both of you are dying by degrees, your life essence mixing with the arena sand in dark puddles. But you're still fighting, still choosing your own fate with every swing of your weapons. Gaius stumbles, his strength finally failing. His shield drops, his gladius wavers. He's finished, and you both know it. This time, you don't hesitate. Your Sika darts forward in the killing thrust, aimed at his heart. But at the last instant, you adjust the angle. Instead of piercing his chest, the blade slides between his ribs and lodges in the muscle beneath his arm. Painful, incapacitating, but not fatal. Gaius drops to his knees again, this time truly beaten. His weapons fall from nerveless fingers, his armor suddenly too heavy to support. He's lost enough blood to weaken an ox, and his body is finally surrendering to the inevitable. But he's still breathing. The arena falls completely silent. 50,000 people wait to see what happens next. You walk over to your fallen friend and kneel beside him in the blood-soaked sand. Your own wounds are serious. You might not survive them even if the crowd spares your life. But you're still conscious, still capable of choice. "Brother," you whisper. "Brother," he whispers back. Together you turn to face the imperial box. Two gladiators who fought like gods, bled like heroes, and refused to let Rome dictate the terms of their courage. The emperor rises from his golden throne. For a moment that stretches into eternity, he studies the scene before him. Two warriors who transcended their training and became something more than entertainment. Two men who chose honor over survival and brotherhood over victory. Slowly, majestically, the emperor extends his hand. His thumb points up. Mercy, life, freedom to fight another day. The crowd explodes in cheers that dwarf anything you've heard before. They're witnessing something legendary. Not just a great fight, but a moment when human courage triumphed over institutional brutality. But their approval doesn't matter anymore. What matters is the man bleeding beside you in the sand, still breathing, still alive, still your brother despite everything Rome tried to make you do to each other. You've both survived, both proven that friendship can endure even in the arena. Both discovered that the greatest victory isn't killing your opponent, it's refusing to let the fight destroy your soul. As medical slaves rush onto the sand to tend your wounds, as the crowd continues its thunderous approval, as the emperor nods his divine satisfaction, you close your eyes and let yourself feel something you haven't experienced in 3 years. Hope. You fought as gladiators. You bled as warriors. You chose as free men. And somehow, impossibly, you both lived to tell about it. The sand has drunk your blood, but not your lives. The arena has tested your courage, but not broken your spirit. Today, you gave Rome the greatest show in its history. Tomorrow, if the gods are kind, you'll wake up beside your brother and plan for a future that suddenly seems possible again. Chapter 10. After the sand settles, the world returns to you in fragments. Pain, first and always. Your shoulder burns like molten bronze has been poured into the wound. Your chest feels as though someone is driving red-hot nails between your ribs with each labored breath. Your thigh throbs in rhythm with your heartbeat, sending waves of agony up your spine. But you're breathing. That alone is a miracle. The medical tent beside the arena is a symphony of suffering. Wounded gladiators lie on rough wooden tables while slave physicians work to keep them alive long enough to fight again. The air reeks of blood, vinegar, and the bitter herbs used to numb pain when proper medicines are too expensive to waste on gladiator flesh. Hold still, the physician mutters as he stitches the gash across your chest. He's a Greek, probably a former battlefield surgeon sold into slavery after some long-forgotten war. His hands are steady despite his bondage, his technique practiced from years of patching up damaged fighters. You try to turn your head to look for Gaius, but leather straps hold you firmly to the table. Standard procedure. Wounded gladiators often thrash in their delirium, sometimes injuring themselves worse than their opponents manage to. "My friend," you croak through lips cracked with thirst and pain. "The Gaul. Where is he?" The physician doesn't look up from his work. Alive. Barely. Lost more blood than a man should and still keep breathing. He pauses to thread a new needle. You both should be dead. The gods must favor madmen and heroes. Same thing sometimes. True enough. Another stitch, another jolt of fire through your torn flesh. I've been patching up gladiators for 15 years. Never seen anything like what you two did out there. What do you mean? The physician finally meets your eyes, and you see something unexpected there. Respect. You had him beaten. Disarmed, wounded, at your mercy. The crowd was screaming for his death, but you let him stand up and fight again. The memory comes back in pieces. Gaius on his knees in the bloody sand. Your Sika raised for the killing blow. The moment of choice that changed everything. "He's my brother," you say simply. Brothers don't usually try to kill each other for Roman entertainment. We weren't trying to kill each other. We were trying to survive each other. The physician considers this while he continues stitching. Did you plan it? The mercy, I mean. The way you fought at the end, like something out of Homer rather than a gladiator school. No, yes, maybe. You're finding it hard to think clearly through the pain and exhaustion. We planned to put on a show. To fight well enough that maybe both of us might live. But what happened at the end, that wasn't planned. That was just human. The physician finishes for you. That was just human. He's right. Everything you and Gaius did in the final moments came from something deeper than training or strategy. When the choreography broke down and death became real, you chose to be men instead of gladiators, brothers instead of enemies. Somehow, incredibly, it worked. The emperor was impressed. The physician continues, beginning work on your shoulder wound. Word is, he's never given mercy to both fighters in a single match before. Usually someone has to die to satisfy the crowd. But not today? Today, you gave them something better than death. You gave them legend. He pauses in his stitching to look at you seriously. Men will talk about your fight for decades. The Thracian and the Gaul who chose honor over victory. The gladiators who reminded Rome what courage actually looks like. The tent flap opens, admitting a figure in expensive robes. You recognize him immediately despite your blurred vision. Lucianus, the lanista who owns your life. Your master, come to inspect his damaged property. "How are my investments, physician?" he asks with the casual tone of a man discussing livestock. "They'll live. Both of them. The Thracian's wounds are serious, but not fatal. The Gaul lost more blood, but his heart is strong." Lucianus nods, calculating the cost of lost training time against the value of 2 proven fighters. "Good." The Emperor specifically requested that both be preserved. Apparently, he was quite entertained by their performance. Entertained. Even mercy becomes entertainment in Rome. "When can they fight again?" Lucianus continues. The physician frowns. "The Thracian, perhaps 2 months if he heals cleanly. The Gaul, longer, much longer. His sword arm may never regain full strength." Your heart sinks. A gladiator who can't fight is a gladiator who dies. If not in the arena, then in the slave pits or the mines or any of the dozen ways Rome disposes of useless property. But Lucianus surprises you. No matter. The Emperor has made special arrangements for both of them. "What kind of arrangements?" you manage to ask. The lanista looks down at you with something that might be respect mixed with calculation. "It seems your little display of brotherhood has made you valuable in ways beyond simple combat. You're to be transferred to the Imperial Gladiator School. Personal trainers for the Emperor's private games." The words hit you like a physical blow. The Imperial School, the most elite gladiator facility in the Empire, where only the most skilled fighters are sent to entertain the Emperor and his closest associates. Better food, better quarters, opponents worthy of your abilities. But still slavery, still combat for entertainment, still death waiting at the end of every fight. "And Gaius?" you ask. "The same. You'll be transferred together, fight together when you're both healed." The Emperor was quite specific about that. He wants to see if your partnership can create more memorable entertainment. Partnership. As if friendship were just another fighting technique to be exploited for crowd appeal. But as the lanista continues discussing your future like you're a prize horse, you realize something important. You and Gaius will stay together. Whatever comes next, better conditions or worse, easier fights or harder, you'll face it side by side. That's worth more than freedom, almost. The physician finishes his work and steps back, wiping bloody hands on a stained cloth. Keep the wounds clean. Change the bandages daily. No training for at least a month, probably 2, and try not to do anything else heroically stupid while you're healing. No promises, you tell him, and he actually smiles. As slaves carry you back to a private recovery room, a luxury you've never experienced before, you catch glimpses of the arena through the tent openings. The sand is being raked clean again, the blood-soaked surface smoothed for the next round of entertainment. Other fights are still happening. You can hear the crowd's roar, the clash of weapons, the final moments of warriors whose names will be forgotten by tomorrow. The games continue with mechanistic efficiency, consuming lives and producing spectacle in equal measure. But somewhere in that vast machine of death and entertainment, something changed today. 2 men chose brotherhood over victory, and somehow both survived. It's a small victory in the face of an enormous system, but it proves that individual choice still matters, even for slaves, even for gladiators. Your new quarters are a shock after 3 years in the cramped cell of the ludus, a real bed with actual mattress, not just straw on stone, a window that lets in natural light, space to move around, to think, to remember what it feels like to be human instead of just a weapon. Gaius is in the bed across from yours, unconscious but breathing steadily. His face is pale from blood loss, his sword arm heavily bandaged, but alive, gloriously, impossibly alive. For the first time in 3 years, you don't have to listen to 7 other men breathing in the darkness. You don't have to wonder which of your cellmates might not survive the night. You don't have to calculate the odds of seeing another sunrise. Instead, you can simply rest, heal, plan for a future that suddenly seems possible again. A slave brings you food, not the usual barley porridge, but actual bread, soft cheese, wine mixed with water instead of vinegar. It's still prisoner food, but it's the best meal you've had since your capture. As you eat, you think about the day that's ending. This morning, you woke up expecting to die before sunset. You said goodbye to everything you cared about, made peace with gods who seemed deaf to gladiator prayers, and walked into an arena fully expecting to kill your best friend or die at his hands. Instead, you discovered something that Rome doesn't want its slaves to know. That choice still exists, even in chains. That honor still matters, even in the arena. That friendship can survive even when the system tries to turn it into hatred. You chose to be Marcus of Thrace instead of just another gladiator. Gaius chose to be himself instead of Rome's entertainment. Together, you proved that humanity can endure even in the most inhumane circumstances. The victory isn't complete, of course. You're still slaves, still gladiators, still property of men who see you as investments rather than people. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new fights, new opportunities for Rome to try to break your spirit. But today, you won something more valuable than freedom. You won the right to remain yourselves, no matter what the empire tries to make you become. Outside your window, the sun is setting over Rome. The city that conquered the world continues its eternal business of politics and commerce and entertainment. In a few hours, the citizens who cheered your fight will be home with their families, telling stories about the spectacular gladiator match they witnessed. Most will remember the blood, the skill, the drama of 2 warriors testing their lives against each other. But a few, just a few, might remember something else. The moment when entertainment became something deeper, when slaves became heroes, when the system that owns your bodies failed to touch your souls. That's enough. More than enough. Gaius stirs in his sleep, muttering words in his native tongue. Probably dreaming of home, mountains and forests, and a life that ended the day Rome's legions found him. But he's dreaming as himself, not as a gladiator. Still connected to who he was before the arena tried to reshape him. You close your eyes and let yourself dream too. Not of escape, that's still impossible. Not of freedom, that may never come. Instead, you dream of tomorrow, of healing beside your brother, of facing whatever comes next as Marcus of Thrace, husband of Lydia, son of mountains, friend of the bravest man you've ever known. The arena took your blood today, but not your life. Rome owns your flesh, but not your spirit. The crowd saw your courage, but couldn't purchase your soul. In a world built on the premise that might makes right, that strength determines worth, that entertainment justifies any cruelty, you proved something different. You proved that a man's choices matter more than his circumstances. That brotherhood can survive even mortal combat. That dignity is something no empire can truly conquer. The sand has settled in the arena. The crowds have gone home. The last echoes of 50,000 voices have faded into the Roman night. But the story of what happened today, the legend of the Thracian and the Gaul who chose honor over victory, will live forever. You fought as gladiators. You bled as warriors. You chose as free men. And in choosing, you won the only victory that truly matters, the right to remain human in an inhuman world. Tomorrow will bring new challenges, new fights, new tests of your resolve. But tonight, you rest beside your brother, both of you breathing, both of you whole, both of you proof that some things are stronger than chains. The day you swapped your life with a Roman gladiator is ending. But Marcus of Thrace? He's just beginning to understand what it truly means to be free.